members to know much about how to get our research to be visible. As academics, aside teaching, we are supposed to research, contribute to policy making, education, and practice. One way of doing that is by publishing our research. And we cannot allow our research to just be seen in the four confines of the University of Education, Winneba. There is a need for people to hear about us, to build our own reputation and that of our institution. And that is why we are here today, to have this workshop, equip us on the things that we need to know, the things that we need to do, so that we will get the skills to have our research visible. We will not only be local researchers, but we will be researchers that are known internationally. So once again, you are welcome to the Jofus Anamwa Mensa Conference Center. I am Elizabeth Osiama, and I will be your MC for today. I will not be doing this alone. My colleague will join us very soon, but until then, I will be taking us through. You are once again welcome. Let's try as much as possible to move forward so we can fill the empty spaces. So very soon we will be taking our opening prayer, and immediately that is done, it implies that the program will officially begin. So we will call on Dr. Annan, the university chaplain, to give us the opening prayer.
Shall we please stand and take the opening prayer? Briefly, I would like you to say a word or two to Allah, to God, the Lord of your life, for granting you the gift of life and all the blessings thereof. Thank Him for taking care of us throughout the week and even for this day. It's Almighty and gracious Father, we say thank you. We are so much grateful to you that we see this day. We thank you for traveling mercies granted unto our presenters. We thank you for the organizers of this program. And we thank you for all who are here present. We commit in this program to your hands. And we pray for the success of it. May we learn. May it not just be a usual academic thing, but let's live here as people who have learned something to improve ourselves. In Jesus' name, pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you very much, Dr. Annan, for the opening prayer. And since the opening prayer has already been given, it implies that we have officially commenced the program. So we need to know why we are here. There is the need for us to welcome our distinguished guests here. And to help us do that, let's, with a round of applause, welcome our acting registrar, Mrs. Wilhelmina Tetemensa. Please, let's give it up to her.
Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Deans, Directors, Deputy Registrars, Heads of Departments, Sections, Units, distinguished guests, members of convocation, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome you to today's workshop on research visibility, one that celebrates the pursuit of knowledge, the spirit of teamwork, and persistent curiosity that propels research. We live in an environment where research and innovation are not just goals, but dire necessities that propel us forward. Our work as researchers challenges boundaries, inspires breakthroughs, and enriches our understanding of the world. Today, under one roof, we are privileged to have members of academia who are reshaping the future of good research across disciplines: science, education, humanities, and the social sciences, among others. This workshop is crucial for the university as it enables us to showcase our intellectual output, foster collaboration, and contribute to the global body of knowledge. It provides a platform for us to explore strategies for increasing the impact of our research work. We have two presenters to take us through today's activities. During this workshop, we will engage in thought-provoking discussion, share best practices, and explore innovative approaches to enhancing research visibility. Let us all engage in discussions that will stretch our thinking and build networks across continents and cultures. This workshop entails more than the exchange of ideas. It is an occasion for the reawakening of creativity, resilience, and unending search for knowledge. I am confident that the insight gained will benefit our research community and contribute to the realization of the university's mission. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I express our heartfelt gratitude to every one of you, whether as the organizers, facilitators, and participants, for your contributions to this event. Your expertise and engagement will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of research visibility as well as its significance. Let us make this workshop not only a showcase of ideas, but also a springboard for new collaborations and lasting impact. Once again, on behalf of management of the University of Education, Winneba, you are all welcome to this workshop. I wish you a productive and enriching experience. Thank you.
Please let's give it up. Thank you very much, Mrs. Tetemensa. Before our presentations can begin, there is the need for us to have a great person who would chair this event. And we are fortunate to indeed have a great person in our midst. Our chairperson is a professor of food science and technology and the current vice chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba. He assumes office with over 2 decades of academic and administrative expertise in the higher education space. He is a distinguished figure.
You can round it up.
I can round it up. Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome our chairperson for today, Professor Stephen Jobson Mitchell.
Thank you very, very much for the honor done me. And MC, thank you very much for the good words that you were about saying about me. I don't think there isn't anybody here who doesn't know me. At least all the faces that I can see, I know them very, very, very well. Than you know that I know. Members of my management team, deans and directors, heads of departments, distinguished professors and senior members, representatives from partner institutions and industry, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We don't have the students with us. Do you have the students with us? Okay, then you are recognized. Let me begin by saying how refreshing it is to be in a room full of ideas. Not just any ideas, but the kind that shape societies, build institutions, and transform generations. If ideas had wings, this room would have been airborne. I must say that this workshop is extremely timely and relevant because universities are about research. That is what differentiates us from other institutions. I don't want to be specific for good reasons. If I go and mention technical universities, they will tell me, hey, we also do research. I don't want to go further. But I remember one time there was this contract to be renewed. You know, we go through these contract systems. Every 4 years, if you are in good standing, then they give you 4 years. At certain times 6 years. At certain times 2 years. At certain times 1 year. There was a time I had, is it 2 years or so? They say, hey, they're going to sack me if I don't sit up. And you know, I was told that when a document came before the APB, I wouldn't also like to mention the name of the Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor asked, so this guy, what is he doing in this university? He's not doing anything. Meanwhile, you are teaching 48 credit hours in a week. Eh? So, in a university without research, it's like we are not doing anything. Universities are research institutions. And that is what drives our teaching. And so the question is, if for instance you are teaching and you are not doing any research work, then the question is, what teaching are you doing? And that is the reason why in those days you could see professors with teaching notes that have become bound. And they are using the same notes. For 10 years, it's the same notes. He picks the notes, then he moves along with it and go and teach. I remember I encountered one of these professors. Hey! And we eventually got to know the books that he was picking his notes from. We traced it to the library. We managed to get the questions that were in it, and it was the same questions that dropped. We must research. If you even look at our promotion criteria, research forms about 70% or so of it, depending on the level that you are. Some 65, some 60, some 70. You talk about research output first, which reflects in your publications, the project that you've done. Before you look at teaching some 15 points, then you look at community service. But basically, it is about research. So if you're in university and you are not doing any serious research, then to some extent, you don't need to exist. Then what it also means is that the government, to some extent, is wasting resources on us. What we teach must be current. We don't need to teach outdated knowledge. If you look at the world ranking of universities, greater part is about research outputs. And especially where you even publish these research results. There are so many external assessors reports that comes to us that they indicate this guy is a very good, material. His research topics and content and things are very good. But where he published is questionable. And then some say the same material could have been published in any other high-ranking journal. Most people who are winning big projects and good projects are people who are publishing in high-impact journals. And that's the reason why we need to pay special attention to our research. I have always said it. Look, in academia and in research institutions, the richest people are not the vice chancellors and the registrars and so on and so forth. And those who are doing business and things like that, they are people who are writing grants and winning big projects. I remember in Forest Research Institution, Fimesia, the rich people there are people who are winning big, grants. And when you step there, you see the difference, the kind of cars they are using, the way they talk, the way they handle, themselves. My colleagues, my advice to you this morning is that if there is anything worthy for us to do, let's pay attention to research and proposal writing and grants winning. I am the Vice Chancellor. And I'm saying this with humility. And I know things that passes on my table on daily, basis. It gives me some trends, some analysis and things like that. Those who are making a lot out of these universities are not those who are attending meetings and taking allowances and HODs and I want to become coordinator and I want to become this. No. I'm talking about what I see. And I'm talking about what I work on. If you're on a research project and you are getting about £200 every month, is it £200? I'm talking about £2,000 every month. Or getting about £5,000 every month. Are you not good enough? And at certain times, such people will be on even about 3 projects at the same time. That is where your prosperity, is. And so, I see this workshop to be extremely important. We are all very good, very, very smart and intelligent. But this is also an area that we need to develop a skill. It's about skill development. We cannot do it. When you see people winning grants, no, it's not that we cannot do it. It's a skill that needs to be developed. You already have the knowledge, you already have the whatever you need, but you only need to develop a skill to be able to do that. And I talk about apprenticeship. At certain times, you look at those who are at the top. Then you partner with them and learn the skills. It's not difficult, to do it. And gradually you will pick it up. Somebody told me, I say, Prof, you know how I started? I was going through some frustrations. And I said, if that's the case, then let me shift my attention to this granting. And now I've been able to develop the skill set that this time, I don't go to seek for grants, but they rather write to me that there's a grant here. Can you apply for it? Or, things like that. Colleagues, I'm not going to give you long talks and read speeches to you. You know that I've moved away from the speech. I am advising you that if there is anything worthy of you to do, shift your attention to this research and grant issues, and the future will be very, very bright, for you. Thank you very much.
Let's do it again for our Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Good morning to all of you. And once again, welcome to Jofu Sana Mohammed's Auditorium. One of the core mandates of a university, aside teaching and learning, is research. And definitely, as we publish, as we write, we need to disseminate our research to make sure that other people in other parts of the world get to know about our university, those of us who are writing and publishing, and that's why we are here. How to strategically position our university through research. Ladies and gentlemen, today the first presenter is a Senior Research Development Officer at RIT at the University of Ghana. And he'll be speaking on the topic promoting the visibility of the university's research and monitoring research performance and publications. Our speaker holds a BSc degree in soil science and an MPhil in agricultural extension, and is also a practicing agronomist. With over 16 years of experience advancing research excellence at the University of Ghana, he is a strategic force in the higher education and research management. The Senior Research Development Officer and a team lead for the research performance at ORID. He has led transformative initiatives that have significantly enhanced the university's global research visibility and competitiveness in international rankings such as QS and Times Higher Education. He has a proven track record in unlocking research funding, guiding impactful proposals, and training faculty in high-impact publishing and journal industry, just like what he's about to do today. His expertise in performance metrics, craftsmanship, and institutional advancement has empowered scholars, shaped policy through data-driven insight. He's passionate about building a culture of research excellence, fosters innovation and academic impact that drives national and global progress. Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker, who is again speaking on the topic promoting the visibility of the university's research and monitoring research performance and publication, is Jacob Kilbertson Zuta. Let's give it up for him as he comes on stage.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Registrar, senior members, academic and non-academic here present, SRC President, and students. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today to speak on one of the passionate topics I speak about in some Ghanaian universities. Thank you, Mr. MC, for introducing me better than I know myself. Thank you very much. So today I'm here to first and foremost give you a little overview of what exactly the world, the scholarly world, see University of Education Winneba. Largely, when we do what we do in our countries, no one knows, because nobody will come here to ask for your papers to look at what you are doing. Nobody will drive to Winneba to say, where is your research? No, nobody is going to do that. All that you do will be assessed by databases. Just like Registrar said earlier, teamwork, collaboration, impact. And VC re-echoed that by emphasizing the importance of research publication, grantmanship as the main drive for universities' research output. Because if you don't get the money from your publications, you might not be able to pay your article processing charges. If you want to be visible, you must publish in what? Open access. And open access publication is what? Very expensive. So without grantmanship, visibility of research will be impaired. So grantmanship drives publications and visibility as a metric. So I will normally start by giving you a big profile of how the scholarly world see your work, and I use Scopus database for now. Scopus is a monster in my university. Now we are getting used to accept that monster as a friend. When we first started, what is this animal called Scopus? What is this animal called Web of Science? We've been publishing for all the years. We don't need this. The crusade was on and on. But now in my university, at least Scopus and Web of Science have been accepted as very important criteria for considering the validity or authenticity of a research paper to be accepted for promotion. So we are going by promotion by metrics, though still optional, but largely 70% of promotions at University of Ghana now go by the metric system. The metric here means we use your scholarly metrics, where you publish, where the journals in which you publish, if they are found in Web of Science or Scopus, and what are the impact factor or the site score of those sources or journals that you publish in. And you, the author yourself, what are your metrics? What is your, at least for now, we started with H index. We are not doing normalized citation impact or field-weighted citation impact. For now, it's all about just H index and then the journal that you publish in, what the metrics of those journals are. The assumption here is that when you publish in the higher impact journal, you are more likely to be visible. So that's what we do. So I decided to first and foremost profile University of Education Winneba in the Scopus database within a period of 2020 to 2025, the last 5 years. So in the last 5 years, if I should use Google Scholar, I'm sure I'll get so many papers. But in the Scopus database, I found 924 publications within the last 5 years for this university. And if you look at it, the percentage that is found in open access sources are 46.2%. So the chances that your papers will be visible to other scholars to cite is just about 46.2%, which means that publishing in an open access is a big challenge. And just like the VC said, this process is driven by research grantmanship. You will not be able to use your BRA to publish and pay an article processing fee of $500, $600. You can't do that. How many can you publish a year? Some are even higher, especially in the sciences. So this is what we see, that we are able to get 46.2 as a total open access publications from this university. These papers are published by 520 authors. These include former lecturers, retired lecturers, maybe students, and any affiliate who was once here. And your field-weighted citation impact. The field-weighted citation impact is the weighted average of all that you publish from all disciplines, weighed on a single scale. So what it means here is papers in history, psychology, mathematics, science, medicine, all put together and weighted to give a quantity as to how it will be impacting the total research performance, irrespective of the discipline in which the paper is found. So we call this metric a field normalized citation, field weighted citation impact. Okay. There are so many databases, each of them has a terminology. This field weighted citation impact is a terminology used by Elsevier's Scopus. And then in Web of Science, we will call it normalized citation impact. Okay. The global average is 1.0. So every institution publishing below 1.0 means that institution is performing below the global average. Any institution publishing above 1.0 means the institution is performing slightly above the global average. In Ghana now, UCC has the highest field weighted citation impact, now standing at about 1.48 thereabout, the last time I checked, followed by University of Ghana with 1.28 or so within the same period. So nobody is doing too well here. UCC was astronomically high, but for now it's rapidly moving. KNUST is equally doing very well. So you are at 0.96 and the median is 0.42. Your total citation count is 5,247 and 5.7 per. Your chances of getting, one paper gets cited at least 5.7 times, which is very good for West Africa. Okay. So that is one of the key metrics. The H5 index is just an institutional H index of 27, which is very high. Not bad. So what I'll show again is your publications by disciplines. I think you are publishing across all known disciplines. Even though you may not have a medical school, but a lot of papers from this institution will be classified as papers similar to or in the discipline of medicine. So for now, social sciences contribute the maximum publications in your institution, followed by others. Then you can see the rest. So I decided to go a bit into the others because I wasn't sure, because the percentage of others is so much. And no wonder, this is largely a teaching university, so you certainly have a lot of papers from almost all areas. This is just telling me the key topics that people publish in physics. Based on the color, the extent of whiteness represents how large that discipline is. So I wouldn't waste too much time on this particular Yeah, I won't spend too much time here. But what is of interest normally here is the institutions that you publish with. You know, as they all said, collaboration, teamwork, impact. The institutions you collaborate with play a major role in the impact you will have in your output. So here I look at some of the topics, the papers you have, and the impact that those papers are making. You look at publications on disability rights and others, and it's having a full weighted citation impact of about 0.64. So when you look through the full weighted citation impact, you see that papers in impact of development on aid and economics, those areas seem to have a higher full weighted citation of 1.27. So papers published by that research group has the highest global impact. So as a strategic management decision, sometimes it is encouraged for the institution to find out those doing such publications and give them some priority in terms of helping them to do better, as they seem to be the torchbearers of the institution. And those are areas that if you want to establish maybe center of excellence, your chances of getting funding will be higher. But if you want to establish a center of excellence in an area that has a very low field-weighted citation impact, the chances that your proposal will go through could be very low. So normally we use this kind of metrics to guide on where to go for collaboration, where to do your center of excellence, how to reorganize and redirect resources if necessary without, too much politics. So that's what we use this metric for. This is just a graph showing publications per year based on field-weighted citation impact, how your research impact has changed over the years. It was highest in 2020, went high a bit, came down to 2024. 2025, it has risen again significantly. So it means you are making a good progress from 2024 to 2025 with regard to research impact. Then, this is what I said earlier, but not at the right time. Your international collaboration publications are 42.8%. And then those by institutions in Ghana, 31%, only here, 10.9%, and then single authored papers are 14.8%. When you look at the scholarly output, that's number of papers from those collaborations are stated. And when you look again, the important thing is to look at the citations, and especially the field-weighted citation impact. When I get to the ranking portion of my presentation, I'll tell you the significance of this field-weighted citation impact. That is the metric for research influence. So it's a very important metric for both Web of Science and Scopus and a lot of publication, ranking agencies. Okay. So when you look here, you see that your international collaboration papers have field-weighted citation of 1.626, which is 26% above the global average. So that is why I said teamwork, collaboration, impact, just like the earlier researchers said. That is the way to go forward. It is always clear in the data, and of course you can see that for yourself. So the aim, therefore, is to focus more on international collaboration to get the papers published. Those papers have higher chance of being cited. Yes, sometimes if you have technology transfer unit, we believe that papers that are published with industry partners seem to have more relevance on practice and industry. So we also look at academic corporate collaboration papers. When you are developing a proposal, you are able to develop the research problem in consultation with industry partners. When you publish a paper, it is likely to have a high impact on the industry, So we look at that, and here it is 0.4%, with 99.6% of publications here being non-academic corporate collaboration. So industry impact, which is also a measure in some of the rankings, it will be quite low here if we come to industry impact. And this is just, again, showing the collaboration with the institutions that you collaborate with in Ghana. UHAS, University of Ghana, University of Energy, you can look through carefully. So these are the institutions you collaborate with. And again, we try to find the impact of these collaborations so that if maybe senior management is paying a visit to some of these universities, he would know maybe the researchers that he can visit, just to encourage them and strengthen this kind of collaboration that is already existing there, telling them that management is aware and very interested in their work. So that will boost the morale of these researchers to do so. And you may see from the slides that collaborations with University of Ghana, 1.41 is fine. Those from other universities, I'm not too sure So the best institution that you collaborate with, where you get the highest impact, is University of Ghana, 1.41 as your field weighted citation impact. So it means those are useful collaborations to the University of Education. So you will may need to do more collaborative grants, joint research projects, even if possible, joint postgraduate program and teaching program, just to win that collaboration. There are many ways of boosting it without necessarily employing. I have always said that. Postdoc students can use their paper. If you engage people on part-time basis, we have multiple institutional affiliation. There's no law that you cannot have a multiple institutional affiliation. So if you have a very good professor somewhere, tell him that, look, I'll give you one course. Come and teach in my university for maybe every semester, just come and teach one course. But put our affiliation on your papers. Your publications will start flying, your metrics will start flying. These things can be quite mechanistic if you sit down and carefully engineer it, because it's simply a database and computing system, picking algorithms here and there. So you can carefully sit down and engineer some of these issues, these things. That's why some universities are always cheating us. You hear some top professor from Cambridge has moved to MIT, the same professor after a few years, you hear he's in Oxford. These are kind of dynamics that they use. So every day when you are doing the ranking, every year you see MIT, Cambridge, Oxford, Princeton. These are the kind of things they do. Stigler was somewhere in Chicago. Later he moved to the UK, the Nobel laureate in economics some years back. So if you follow them, you see that they've been moving from university to university, largely because they are being poached. I know how difficult it is when you have to poach a senior scholar to your department. You could face serious challenges, especially if you want the person to move in completely. Because if he comes, people might think he might think that he's publishing better, so he wants to be the dean. There are others who should have been the dean, but because he's new. So people are not comfortable poaching. It's been difficult poaching here in Africa. So that's something, again, this is the same full-weighted citation impact in a graphical form, just like I explained earlier, year by year. So don't worry about that part. I'll be leaving these slides for you. So those things that I do not talk about much could be further explained. And okay, this metric, I don't like showing it because it's not a ranking, it's not a league table. But sometimes people misread it as a league table. It is not, okay? Every metric you want, and the people who would top. This one is only showing top publishers in terms of number of papers in Scopus as of the day I extracted this data. So it is not a league table. If I click on citations, it will re-rank this table based on number of people with the highest number of citations. If I go to H-index, it will re-rank this table based on number of people with H-index. But in terms of scholarly output, out of yesterday, this is the kind of things you will see based on number of papers published within the period. These things can be mechanistic. You may even see a professor who doesn't teach in your school here, but because he had done a paper with one of you, the system might pick it as your paper or as that of your institution. So they are not absolute league tables. But it's something that I show. I'll leave this for you. So I will be showing another metric again. This is just about you. So I have also decided to do a little comparison with your institution, with at least our Ghanaian peers, to see how we compare. Just to know the empiricals, to be sure where we belong. So I will show another analysis. Yeah. Yes. Oh no, this is not it. Sorry. We have to close this. There's one missing, the institutional benchmarking report. There's one other PDF document called institutional benchmarking report. While he looks for that, I may move to my main presentation whilst he does that, because that gives you a fair idea on how you are performing vis-a-vis other Ghanaian universities. So for this will address the key reasons. Sorry for using University of Ghana's template. I should have contacted you earlier to get Winneba this school's template. Yeah, these are things I'll be speaking to. I went to your website to look at the history, your publication performance, like the comparing of your school with selected institutions, which is yet to be done, and then your research profile, what I do for Legon, then some brief on why do you have to publish in these so-called high-impact journals at all, because everybody's saying high impact. Why the need? And then we'll look for applicants' publication evaluation. When you apply for grants, what do the funders look for, especially with regard to your papers, quality of papers that you have, and how they do it, okay? So I wouldn't read these ones because I think every faculty member, every staff knows what the brief about the university and where it started from and where it has reached. Your vision and mission are quite clear. The only difference is some universities went ahead to create comprehensive strategic plans derived from this mission and visions, and then again develop research agenda based on this research, this mission and visions, and then came out again with research areas or research strategy, which some institutions have done in addition to their core mission, visions, and values. These are some of the things that, if the university is interested, you could further do. Yeah, so this again was shown in the earlier slide of the various disciplines of your papers, social sciences being the highest, and followed by the others. This is why I decided to find out which are the others. So I got this and I realized you publish across all disciplines, and no wonder it's a teaching university. So this means that you have a very high chance of meeting the ranking criteria of most international ranking agencies, because subject diversification is one of the key criteria to meet if you want to join the global university rankings. Okay, so I just look at it to tell you that, to see that yes, you are in almost all disciplines globally, and the progression of your publications is positive. It's moving from 99, jumped to 186 in 2022, to 219, 2023, 2024, 245. This year, we are in midway through, and you have this significant number of papers already. Just to show this in the same, it's a graphical form, 2025 has not ended yet, so it is not a drop. It is just that 2025 hasn't ended, so we are still moving forward. But to correct that, I reduced it to 2024. So you see how progressive you are moving. So certainly, UEW is moving forward. It's not going back. There is a positive exponential growth of publications from this university, which is very encouraging. So I did a little to compare the metrics. So what we do here is to look at the number of papers in the top 1% most published, most cited sources, okay, comparing Winneba and University of Ghana. So we are all on the same trend. When you look at us, when you look at it, both Winneba and Legon, we have very few papers in the top most cited 1%. So the issue of not publishing in high impact sources It's not limited to any Ghanaian university. We are all in the same group. So you see the trend is similar. Here, just 1%, then followed by 5%. See, the majority of our papers are in 25 and 50. These are normally less visible papers that are less likely to attract citations. So the trend is same for all Ghanaian universities. So I've always said that there's a need for a nationwide advocacy for a national intervention to address this issue. I'll cite an example. Since times, Egypt was in turmoil for some time during the Arab Spring. So when General Sisi took over in Egypt, he consulted Elsevier and Web of Science to come and build the capacity of their papers. Anytime the rankings are out now, Egyptian universities and South African universities are always among the top 10. Legon was number 6, Africa. We were jubilating. Egypt was not there. Egypt was in turmoil. When Egypt entered, Morocco entered, Tunisia entered. Now we have gone almost to 31, 32. This is the story of North Africa. So North Africa has changed the ranking template based on a national level intervention. I'm happy the government has established something for this GET fund. We hope they will develop the appropriate modalities for its administration to prevent this kind of trend in our universities. Because without a national level intervention, our individual universities alone may not be able to reach that point of getting most of our papers in the top 5 or top 1%. No, it will be very difficult because of the cost of doing research, the cost of publishing in open access, and all these issues. So certainly within the national level. So you see there's a clear correlation between Legon and Winneba regarding the quality of journals we will publish in. So I decided to go deeper into the journals, the specific journals that we are talking about. So these are some of the top journals in the world, cancer research, blah, blah. So where University of Ghana may have few. So the highest paper, most visible cited is somebody from this university. There are 2 papers in renewable energy. And these are the top most ranked journals that somebody here has published in. If you want to know, you go further to know the person, but we did not do that. So again, we tried to find out who is funding research here. You see the Bielefeld collaboration is about the best funder. So this project, if it is ongoing, then it should be dear to the heart of management of the university. If it is no more there, it will be good to reactivate it because it's the biggest funder, followed by the National Natural Science Foundation, and then UK Research and Innovation. I think you have some funding from KNUST, World Bank, and the British Academy, but this is just to tell you, funds are very important for research, like the VC said. This shows, again, some of the top authors, but in a longer time than 5 years. What I showed was for the last 5 years, but this is for the last, I think, 20 or 15 years, thereabout. And you see the league again. Some of these people are no longer in this institution, I'm aware. So again, that brings a very important issue I'll be speaking to later. Author profiles. A lot of people have papers that are not in their names. Some of your papers are missing in other people's names, especially if you bear the same name with other people. If you are Owusu Mensah, the number of Owusu Mensahs in Ghana are so many. Your paper here may be in the name of somebody in Forestry Research Institute who bear the same name. So we do a lot of author profile corrections. So it's one area you need to do. If Bonya, Mr. Bonya is no longer here, Professor Bonya, I think he should be now. Certainly, his papers are still, you are still benefiting from his papers. These are the kind of things that goes on. So the same way, some of your people have left other places and they are here and their papers got lost. go back and retrieve them and build your author profiles. It's one of the key actions you have to do if you want to improve your research feasibility. If you don't build author profiles, you wouldn't have feasibility. Go to Google Scholar, go to have an OC ID, go to Pablons, build your profile everywhere as an academic. So I decided to visit your institutional repository because one of the best ways to make your research visible is through the proper management of the institutional repository. You also have the D space like we do. I visited there, but I realized that since 2025, I've not seen any upload in 2025. So the institutional repository managers need to quickly get back and see how quickly they can update their repository with publications of 2025. Maybe they are there, I didn't see it. But so what is our target? If you are visible, you want impact. There are several definitions of impact. Every ranking agency has its definition of impact. But I can say confidently that 99% of respected ranking agencies would only use publications found in Scopus and Web of Science. Both funding agencies and ranking agencies go for Scopus and Web of Science. In South Africa, their government has its own national publication database, which they use to rank their scholars. So they can say, if they wish, we are not going for Scopus, we are not going for Web of Science. But here in Ghana, we get our research funds from the Global North. And the Global North says that if you don't publish in Scopus or Web of Science, I don't recognize it. So the Global North is not interested in where we publish. If our government wants us to be visible to itself, then our government must give us a database to publish in. Then we can say that Scopus, Web of Science, go. But as long as we continue begging money from the Global North for research, we don't have an option. So we try to mimic or look for what the Global North dictates as research excellence. And one classical example of the dictates of Global North is Times Higher Education Rankings criteria. And this criteria looks at your teaching reputation, the very first item at the top here, accounting for 15%. But you see, when you hear this teaching reputation, you might think it is your teaching that somebody is evaluating. You can teach 41,000 students, but nobody will count your teaching reputation. This teaching reputation is simply an opinion pool where academics that you collaborate with, or academics who once taught in your university, or academics who had joint grants with your university, or academics that you have had any form of affiliation with in any part of the world will be contacted. And a simple question will be, how serious do you assess the teaching of University of Education, Winneba? This is a teaching reputation survey. It has nothing to do with teaching. So, when you are co-authoring a paper with someone, and you leave all the work for the person after you started it, because you started already, he might reluctantly continue to go with you till the paper is published. But when that person is asked, how serious are you with regard to your teaching? You and I can tell the answer he will give you. This is teaching reputation survey. If a professor somewhere is admitting a student from your school, and they need verification from academic affairs, and sometimes some of our universities have phone numbers that no one responds to, emails that are never answered. If that professor sends a mail to you several times about admitting a student from UCC, I want a confidential or verification of his qualification, nobody picks it. Nobody replies the email. If somebody wants to collaborate with you, he doesn't know University of Education, the only way is to go to the website. And if he tries to contact, nobody minds him. Next time he receives a survey, you and I can tell you what he will say. So getting visible is not only through peer-reviewed papers, but also a total change in behavior regarding higher educational terrain. That is the sole way. So the process equally involves the role of administrators and academics. I know in a university, we all know everything that is available at the website of every university, apart from the course outlines and course objectives, were written by administrators. Isn't it? And every email and phone number that you put at your website, if they ring or send a text, is likely to reach an administrator, except those of HODs and deans. So getting visible is not only the work of academics through peer review papers, but also a collective effort from university administrators. Student-staff ratio is a metric that is very difficult to balance, because if you want to work on it, if you keep employing people and the people are not publishing, remember, all the metrics are normalized by number of faculty. So if you have a lot of faculty who are not publishing, thinking you are working at reducing student-staff ratio, you could be running into a higher denominator, which you eat into the publications of the few. So it's a metric that you should be careful when you want to balance. They say doctorate to bachelor's ratio. Okay, if you want to be research intensive, you do more doctorate production. They measure it. Doctorate production is a measure of research output. It's not just graduating a doctorate. No, once you have produced a doctorate, you are doing better at research. Then doctorate staff ratio, fine, you need to have more staff, more doctorates. And then institutional income, yes, they count the money that you make from your school. And then your research reputation is another one. And look at the marks allocated to the reputation, 16 and 18. And it's the same way. And these are opinion-laden issues. So to really get ranked sometimes, it is these opinion-laden metrics that really pushes you to the top. It is not just the publication, the impact factor, not alone. So the reputation of an institution is very, very important. How prompt you are with emails. And another monster that is running through our university is because the students are 1,000, okay, and you taught 1,000 students, you don't know them. You don't know these students. So if one of them has finished a master's somewhere and wants to go for PhD somewhere, chasing you for recommendation, I don't know you, I don't know you. Our students are walking around, begging for recommendation letters everywhere because the faculty doesn't know them, because there are too many. But these are issues that seriously impact our reputation. These are people who have some affiliation with your school. A lot of students from here are now professors in different universities globally. So what perception are we creating for these students that we are teaching about our universities? There are departments in some universities that former students never go back for masters, even if they graduate with first class. We have this departmental killers. They don't make the department attractive for their former students to even come back. So these are ways by which we create reputation for our university. And then we come to this productivity. So the research productivity is the measure of publications per faculty. Okay. So whatever we do, we divide the total number of papers by the number of faculty that you have. So if you have faculty that is not publishing, sorry, I've been talking a bit too fast. If you have faculty who are not publishing, they will eat in the publications of the others. So the productivity will still be low. And the citation impact is what I mentioned earlier, which is a measure of research quality. The assumption is if a paper is cited, it is of good quality. And the first step, the first way by measuring an impact, in most cases, is a citation score. There are many papers people have written and they have not yet been cited. It doesn't mean that they are not good. They are very good papers. But like VC said earlier, the source of that paper would determine sometimes whether it will be cited or not. So you can have a good paper, but publishing in the wrong outlet makes it invisible. So VC's statement is confirmed by every empirical data that you take. So again, we come to research strength. They are all measures of citation, research excellence, research influence, they are all measures of citation. And I spoke of industry earlier. Patents, if you are able to have patents, they are very useful. I know it takes a lot of money to have a patent. Then we have this international faculty. We have to manage people when they come, when they are not in our culture. And then international co-authorships. How often you co-author papers with people outside this country. That is a plus in the ranking. So these are some of the things we think we are looking for. Okay. Okay, so at Legon, I do this. I do grants. Largely, I prompt the university on their strengths and weaknesses. So senior management is regularly prompted on what is going wrong somewhere, what is going right somewhere, even including websites, because the only way I can know about University of Education, Winneba, is not to take car and come here, but to go to the website of the university to find out what exists. And nobody in Europe or America will come here because he has heard there is a name. He will go to your website. Whatever you put there is what will bring you that international student. And you and I know the money we raise from international students is far, far more than what we get from the local students. And in many universities, for example, University of Ghana, we get close to 40% of our total income from research. School fees account for just a little about 22% or less. So research, international students, these are cash cows. You don't miss them out. And the simple thing you do is to get your website updated with contact addresses, contact emails, contact numbers. So if I have a problem and I'm calling someone, I want to call this university, at least someone should pick my call and talk to me. We are all guilty of it. So it's not only one university. You see admission time and the whole campus is scattered with students trying to find their bearing here and there, looking for help and direction, because we don't have a system in our website that is working very well. KNUST has the best system when it comes to that. One of my works at Legon is to monitor performance and behavior of all universities. So I do that. KNUST has one of the best systems when it comes to designing admission systems and complaint systems and how to resolve errors. So that's the work I do, like a policeman, university police. But you see, this high impact, why are we worrying ourselves about it? As an understanding is that if you publish a paper in a discipline, it reinforces your teaching quality. Just like VC said earlier about the old lecture notes, publishing a good paper in a good source actually reinforces your teaching quality. It means you are very much informed in your area of research and you are abreast with current knowledge in the area. That is one of the reasons why you need to publish in high impact sources, because it reinforces your teaching quality. And like I said earlier, influences university rankings. And income for research grants from funding agencies is very important. Without the research grant, you can't start it. Our government doesn't have any grant. You can't use student fees to do this work. So it helps in institutional evaluation and assessment. But so again, these same high impact sources are what actually funders are looking for. When you apply for a grant, they are not going to Google Scholar. In most cases, they won't. Not NIH, not Wellcome Trust, not any of the research councils of the UK, not Norwegian funding, Danida, no. They are going to Scopus or Web of Science. They are not using Google Scholar to assess your competence. If you publish that you want to establish a universal center of international education at University of Education, Winneba, to a funder, a World Bank or somewhere, and you are the lead PI, the first thing the funder will do is, this Professor Lead PI, what does he know about International Center of Global Education? How would they know? Quickly, they take Elsevier or Clarivate and ask them to go into Scopus or Web of Science to find out if there is enough evidence that you have the capacity of leading an international center for global international education. If you don't have papers that suggest or show that you can do it, at the first step, you are eliminated. So if you look at the centers of excellence around, if you have time, you can just Google the PIs, and you see they have extensive publications in the Scopus database or Web of Science database in the particular areas that they address. Maybe I'll just say one, that is West Africa Center for Crop, Genetic Crop, WACI at Legon, okay, or WAGNI, West Africa Center of Biochemistry of Infectious Pathogens. Maybe let me use that one. If you look at the PI, the lead PI who won that grant, you realize that he has extensive publications in biochemistry of infectious parasites. So that process of selecting to know that you can lead it is through the databases. They will not go to Google Scholar, they won't come to your website. So if it is not there, you are not a scholar in that area. So expertise and track record and the relevance of applicants' academic degrees and of course certificates. In most cases, you are supposed to know the area you are applying for the grant in. It's ideal. It's not like the American fortune makers who drop out of college but have become influential. That does not apply normally in the grantmanship process. Bill Gates might not have a degree in computer science, but he's a superhero. But here, you must have a degree in it, you must publish in it to be considered a superhero. And that publication must be directed at a specific database. That is the rule. That's if you want their money, okay? So they look at your previous research experience, publications. Once you are PI, the team members, they may not be bothered too much about all the team members, but the PI's publications are always scrutinized. So the research team members, they equally look at your qualifications. If you have a proposal that has nothing to do with maybe psychiatry, and you are working on something different, and you find a psychiatrist profile among your PIs, then you have to clearly define the role he has to play in that publication and how his publications address or are relevant to your application. They will, of course, look at how clear, coherent, and complete your research proposal is, and especially its originality. It's always like a student who says, I don't want to study this course. I don't want to study this course. I don't like it. But you see, it's forever like that. Not even your professors like the courses they studied. They studied where money was made available. So the founder will give you a problem that me, I have money. What I want is someone who can do A, B, C, and D for me. So you can't really follow your interest in grantmanship because the money is not for you. The person says, this is what I want. So he gives you a problem and you must give him an original answer, an answer that will best solve it for him. And he gives you the money. So it's not a gift. It's really like forcing you to do what he wants and you want to do it because of the money. So you don't have a say when it comes to the grantmanship terrain, unless you have a national government just giving money out. So how creative your proposal is, and again, how feasible it is, and the methods that you use. So they use peers in your discipline to review. This is very important because if you have people who have reviewed these applications, they have a rich knowledge which they can use to train early career and younger ones and how to do it. So as an institution, I always propose that we take stock of those who are reviewers of grants for funders all over. And then the research office needs to collaborate to work with these people to go back and pick all the comments on rejected applications. If you pick the comments of rejected applications and get these senior reviewers, then they come out to develop a solution for them. So if you apply for a grant and it is rejected, it is not negative. It is an opportunity to know what the funder is looking for. So we need to collate all these comments from reviewers that have rejected our proposals. And then we now get a team to sit and address these comments. So rejected papers, proposals are still assets, especially once it comes back with reviewers, funders' comments. So we don't lose the experts. The experts are not many, but they need to be motivated to kind of institutionalize mentorship, okay? So I just decided to go through some of these funders and just be sure where what they use for their publication, evaluation, or competence of a PI. So if you are a PI, all the funders I've mentioned here will go to Scopus or Web of Science. If you are applying to grants from any of these funders, you can go to their website. You go down, look for their application evaluation criteria. You will say that they will hear at a point you say that they will consult Clarivate or Elsevier to do this work for them, your competence. And like I said, they use Web of Science. Web of Science has a place they call Insight. Insight is an analytical tool used by Web of Science, and they use this to find out who you are. So you will not tell them who you are. They won't tell you what they want from you. They will simply go to Web of Science, Clarivate, and Clarivate uses these softwares to profile you. I think you've been seeing the citation reports. Every time Clarivate comes right with Insight citation report, scholarly citation report. Every time if you go to their website, you may see some of our professors there every now and then. So Scopus with its software, Skyver, used for doing this. Then PubMed for the medical sciences. In most cases, if you are from the health sciences, they use PubMed to look for your publications, to evaluate you. And Dimensions is a new AI database. Some funders will look for it. Google Scholar, we all know, has both peer review and non-peer review scholarly material. So it is not very authentic. In fact, when it comes to ranking, it is only webometric ranking that uses Google Scholar. So if you look at webometric ranking, for example, African universities do very well because we have a lot of things in Google Scholar. But when the database comes in, then you see us riding away. These are some of the other databases, okay? So, like VC said earlier, if you want to improve your research visibility, you target the high impact sources. There's no way you can do without the high impact sources. And then open access publishing, which goes with article processing charges. So I have always said, in few universities, they have them. In Egypt, one thing the president did for them is, if you submit a paper for publication from arts and humanities, if it has an impact factor of 5 and above, the state pays you your article processing charge. In the sciences, if it is, I think, 10 or 11, the state pays you the article processing charge. So some few universities also do it. If you have a paper to submit and they look at the impact factor of the source, the university might pay the article processing fee for you. But if it is low, they won't pay. So if you know that the university will pay your article processing fee, you target a high impact journal because the fees are very high. So Egypt is a policy. An academic publishing high impact, you get a fee paid. Some universities do that, but I don't know one in Ghana. So that's it. Like, you need to support researchers who may face article processing charge issues. So I was saying UE could establish an institutional open access publishing fund to cover these fees. I know it will be difficult, but especially how to assess. But the criteria is quite easy. It's all about the impact factor of your source. If it is high, you get it. If you don't patch it, people will apply. Every year, the first 3 will get it funded. It's a way to motivate faculty to get to the top journals. And we need to train researchers and maintain unique digital identifiers. I said it earlier, you all need to have your ORC IDs. You all need to be able to track your performance and your citations. Anytime you publish a new paper, certainly go to the databases and see if it has reflected, because we have a lot of errors with these databases. These things will make your research visible. Your profiles I mentioned earlier, it's a repetition. And of course, your institutional repository must be regularly updated. By the latest paper by the end of this month, in 2 months' time, should be at the repository, because it's one of the ways by which people who don't have money to access expensive databases or global databases will find your papers to read. And again, it is one of the easiest way by which your own faculty and students will have access to the kind of papers you have published. So the repository is so crucial at enhancing research visibility. Yes, this social media thing, whether we like it or not, it has come to stay. Sometimes you go to Facebook and you really see some very interesting publication on Facebook. I find a lot of interesting papers on Facebook. People just post what they publish, and sometimes it could be very interesting. The first day I got to know of the Nobel laureate in medicine 2021 was on a Facebook post. So I clicked on the paper and it was, wow, very exciting. So let's go there. You don't have an option. Your media handlers must include latest interesting publications. People will read them, and that will attract the person to cite your paper. And all these social media tools, blogging and all this that has come, they are not only for people to polish their faces and say things for people to follow, but an institutional blogger could create interesting science stories from publications. For example, if you publish a very good paper that is very interesting, you could change the words to make it more friendly, take off the scholarly scientific jargon and make it citizen friendly. And blog posts say it will attract people to read. So we shouldn't leave the blogging to only politicians and artists. We have scholarly blogging. And we encouraged to join academic networks and participate in some of these online things. ResearchGate, all this, they are good to join. It's just good to let yourself be known. In the world today, if you are not online, you don't exist. The only way someone will know of you is when you are online. And the best way to get online is by your papers. Yeah. The university can come out with press releases of very interesting papers that are published in some of the disciplines. Like maybe sometimes if I have time, I could go straight into the papers of some university and look at some interesting ones. So people are doing really marvelous jobs in Ghana. But we have not made our populace aware of the pleasure of discovering or knowing things of knowledge. So our media space is silent on anything academic and useful. It is our work to promote it as teachers. And media engagement, like I said, yes, when there's a good publication somewhere, you can make noise. People should enjoy reading, especially the non-academic faculty, especially the administrators. The best thing you can tell a professor is, Prof, I saw your paper on this and it was interesting, so I want you to educate me more on it. The professor will be very happy that you have read his paper. And these are papers that you can use for your science stories, to do your research magazines, your research reports, your quarterly journals or magazines, just to showcase the kind of research going on in the university. Because the professor would not have that time to come and write that science story, to produce that quarterly journal or periodic newsletter on research outputs or discoveries in this university. But it is the administrator who would have to talk to the professor about it and come out with this scholarly, this research topic, research story. I call them research stories. A beautiful story on what someone has discovered. And then these magazines go out all over the world, and certainly it may attract someone to read your papers. So when students are doing literature review, even faculty, senior members, you still go to Google Scholar. And when you go there, this small write-up from a quarterly journal or magazine may be the first one to pop up. The main article in Web of Science may not pop up. So if you have done this little science story That is what may pop up in the first Google Scholar or Google search. People just do simple Google search, and this will bring out this your communication journal. So then the person will go further to look for the paper and find where it is, and that is the first step in getting a paper cited. So there's nothing like this media is too low for my paper. Even if it's in Journal of Nature, I read a lot of papers from Journal of Nature from Facebook. Somebody will write something there and put a reference. You click on it, it takes you to the Journal of Nature's website, and you extract that paper and read. So we can't do without the media. You also have to do what we are doing now. You track the metrics. Who is doing what and at where? How likely are we being cited, and how frequently are we being cited? And like I said, in the university, it's all about promotion. If you want to do anything, the first thing, as an administrative staff, saying I was doing research support, the first challenge I faced as the first batch of research managers ever employed in this country was, when you get to a faculty, I've seen the grant, I'll be interested if we can write it and see if we can win the grant. The first question you ask me is, would this promote me? Would it count towards my promotion? If the answer is no, that professor is not going to join you in writing that proposal. So our first responsibility was to look for funding opportunities and track people with who can do it. So when I was first employed within the first 6 years, I could tell you every professor in Legon and what he publishes on and what area he researches, so that I can go to him and give him funds to write. But the question they will ask is, will this promote me? If it will not count towards my promotion, I'm not going to do it. So management would always have to motivate faculty that if you do this, publish here, it will count towards your promotion. If you win a grant, every grant won maybe could be equivalent to 1 peer review article. If you have a patent may be maybe 4 peer review articles. So if you don't have the motivations, you wouldn't get the outcome. So this crusade was on and on and on, and at a point, senior management bought into it, and that is why I was asked to join a group of people to develop the metric system of promotion with justification, which we now use. Although it's not mandatory, it's getting more and more popular. And it's faster, it reduces the subjectivity. You know, when you do the qualitative assessment, it's so opinion-laden. But when the metric speaks for itself, no one asks a question. So majority of faculty now prefer the metric system to the qualitative assessment. Although I must admit, the metric system is too mechanistic and biased, but it is a bit easier and objective, and above all, reduces the cost of external qualitative assessment. So it's cost effective. So the universities are gradually moving towards that system. So in the future, I won't be surprised if some metric will be relevant for almost every academic promotion or appointment in our university. So these are things that could motivate people to make their research visible. And so yes, some few recommendations. You've been featuring in some rankings, but it will be good to be strategic. UCC has been strategic all the time. My friend, I'm always talking about you because you've been strategic most of the time. They don't rush into a ranking. They will take their time, study it, and then they look at one. They say, no, maybe we have the strength here. Let's fire. So they fire, and in most cases, they do very well. So Winneba has done some, featured in some rankings, but we could collectively think of all the rankings, the criteria they use, and then look at the institutional strength of this university. And then we strategically target maybe 1 or 2, then work at it. And I can guarantee you, with the right attitude and commitment, you could be number one in that ranking in Ghana. It's just about knowing what to target and at what time. UCC has been very strategic at that. Our school is my school is too big and complicated, so it's not very easy for Legon to take decisions. Yes, that's true. Yeah. So times higher is good, but the key criteria is you need 1,000 academic papers over a 5-year period and at least 100 publications in each of those years to feature or to participate in Times Higher Education's ranking to meet the criteria. So when we look at our papers, we are at 926 thereabout. So I could comfortably say that by 2026, this university can position itself to take part in THE Times Higher Education rankings. You meet the criteria by then, looking at the progression that you are making in the school-based database. The South African ranking has very low rating on number of papers in Scopus. It's one of the low-hanging fruits that any university that is smart can pick. Watch it carefully. It's always a private university that ranks number one. In most cases, Aseshi, because they don't have the papers. So they focus on these little quick things they can do and get ranked higher. But the big complex universities, it takes time for you to get certain kinds of information online. But the private university, one man can sit and order and it is done. But you all know the processes in our universities until it's appointed, approved by academic board and goes to the top and comes back. We will say the top because our big people are on the hill. So until it goes to the top, it won't see the light of the day. But smaller universities are quick. So if you watch the private universities, even Academic City University, it's less than one department here, but they could rank second in Ghana with sub-Saharan rankings or sustainable development rankings. QS is also cool. The requirement for publication is not so much. QS is one area to re-examine. Academic ranking of world universities and USA News Education ranking, you don't subscribe. They rank you by themselves. They only go to Scopus, they go to Web of Science and just rank you. Whether you like it or not, they will rank you. You don't need to subscribe. So those ones, you don't have to worry yourself about them. Just keep publishing in high impact sources. When the time comes, they will rank you. Webometric, like I said, both peer review and non-peer review. I have some few references. Can I please now have my last presentation, which is just a graph comparing the performance of Ghanaian universities. Thank you for the time, and I'm sorry to use too much time on my presentation. If you give me the whole day, I won't finish. So he's coming to show that slide, and then I will just speak to it. Yeah. It's on the, yes, it's in the email maybe. thank you for this one too. So this is a benchmarking report showing some universities. The first one you are seeing here is a graph, just a trend graph of how some universities are performing in Ghana. So let me move you down to look at the legend first, okay? It's so long sometimes. So if you look at the legend, the colors, if you can remember, a bit difficult, but the first color there is University of Ghana. If you look at the publication record in the last from 2015, University of Ghana has the highest number of publications. But if you watch it carefully, it shot a bit faster from 2021 thereabout. That was the year we started this promotion biometric thing. So before then, University of Ibadan was the highest publisher in West Africa. But University of Ghana is now the highest published university in West Africa, overtaking University of Ibadan. But here in this graph, it is followed by KNUST. So you look at the legend for KNUST, is this colored dot, that's KNUST. And I believe it is then followed by University of Cape Coast, the green one, this green one. Yeah, that's UCC, the green one, University of Cape Coast. Okay. Then it will then be followed by, I'm sure it's UDS. Yeah. But if we just take note of this one, which is here, based on size and several factors, that is that's University of Education. UHAS, because it's a health science institution, okay, and globally, you find the largest number of journals in health sciences, not in arts, not in humanities. And again, the most visible journals worldwide are those of the health sciences. And in most cases, for example, Lancet, G Cancer, they have impact factor of sometimes more than 100. And a paper, a journal in arts and humanities, some have impact factors of 0.2. So one paper at UHAS could consume 40 papers here or in the arts or humanities. So that's how come UHAS and others seem to be ahead in terms of this trend of publications output, simply based on numbers of papers. This is how it stands. But I will go a bit further to the next graph, which will also explain one of the things that people have been talking about. If you look at this carefully, you remember University of Cape Coast, the green one. UCC is ranked number 1 in Ghana by THE for 4 consecutive years now, or largely due to these peaks of publications that you see, the green one. This is the metric called field-weighted citation impact. This is what they use to measure research impact. And you see, UCC has been ahead of all the universities in Ghana here, even up to 2019, up to here, and it's falling here to 2021. But they use a 5-year window in computing this metric. So UCC will continue to rank number 1 in THE rankings up to some time. When this field-weighted citation influence reduces. And the same trend is seen in Web of Science. If you use the other database too, the citation metric will reduce. So this explains UCC's dominance in Times Higher Education's world university rankings over the years. Is largely due to their high citation score. UHAS is higher, but UHAS does not meet the requirement for THE ranking because they have not met the subject diversification requirement. Almost 90% of their publications are in health sciences. So in THE ranking, we don't use one subject to contest. So despite that, UHAS has this outrageous growth in its citation impact, it may not yet do that. However, they are actively working on other subject areas, and in no time, if UHAS join the ranking league, it may be the next best ranked university in Ghana in a very short time. If you look at UHAS, University of Health and Allied Sciences, that's this one. So they are likely going to take over. KNUST, University of Ghana, are struggling down here and there. UCC is still slightly ahead with the yellow, although they have rapidly declined from 2023, and University of Ghana projecting to the top also suggests that possibly in 2026, 2027, University of Ghana may take over again as number one in Times Higher Education rankings if the university does its work well. UCC will still push up because there's relentless effort and is rapidly moving. So it's getting very competitive actually among Ghanaian universities. So we need to look at all the metrics. You don't focus on only this. If an institution is not doing well in the metrics, you focus on the other areas, you might pull a surprise. But because of resource constraint and others, for global South universities, the metrics are seen to be our strength. It's always better for us we perform better at the metrics. So again, I showed this earlier. The outputs, most of them are the few in top 10. Those who are publishing in top 10, University of Education is doing very well. Winneba, you are doing very well in the top 10 compared to other universities. But if you go down, majority of our universities, like I said earlier, are in the 25, 50. So this is it. Most of our universities are in the top 25, top 25. Only few are in the top 5, top 10, top 1. Ghanaian universities where we are, only few would not be there. So we are concentrated there, no exception. And I think this will bring my presentation to an end. This is a similar graph, just telling, this one tells the collaboration impact. Okay, just like Madam said, collaborate, teamwork, impact. This is the outcome. If you look at those high field weighted citation impacts, they came from international collaborated papers that UCC published, largely through their postdoc students. So you don't play with your postdocs, they can change the game. UCC is enjoying from the fruits of their postdoc students. So if we pay attention to postdoc, which can come through research, you can change the table in no time. So this is the impact of international collaboration on research influence. So collaborate, teamwork, impact. Thank you very much.
Let's do it better for Jacob Kilberson Zuta. Let's do it again, please. That's an insightful presentation. A lot has been learned. And in fact, if someone was not here, then he has really missed. Please tell your colleagues who are not here, send them a WhatsApp message. Tell them that this is very insightful. They should be here. And I'm happy that you were talking about the top and all that. Luckily for us, all the top people are here. So whatever we say, they will listen to it. But one fascinating thing, a lot of things caught my attention, especially with regards to the OA Institutional Publication Fund or Publishing Fund. That's very interesting. Very soon UEW will set one. You know, you get what VC will do that for us. Let's give it up for VC who will do that for us. Registration, you do that. The Egypt way too. You see the Egypt way. You want to publish in top, and they'll give you money. Very soon, any of the parties, they will do that for us too. Yeah, and also the media relations. I think that we should do that, especially with our university, the people who operate our institutional handles, Facebook and all that. It's good that aside putting pictures of events like this, UW organized this, UW organized that, they should also make it deliberate about putting research work and all that. And when we were talking about the blogging, I was imagining we having a UEW research podcast, and Professor Enoch Sam will be the moderator. Every week we'll have a particular area, and there will be people who publish in that area discussing it. That would be interesting, right? Yeah, I got that, and it's very interesting. And of course, when we were talking about the scholars, some scholars moving from one university to the other, I told you, I could resonate with it. You know, some scholars moving from MIT to Chicago to Cambridge, you know, because in my email, a lot of universities want to move me to other universities. Why are you laughing? I read my email. Ask VC. A lot. In fact, very recently, Arizona contacted me. Yeah. You too, you got an email, right? But you say you want to be UTAC secretary before.
Yes, but I said I love UEW, so I want to.
Okay, so you want to be UTAC secretary. After that, then you go.
Exactly.
You go.
No.
No, okay, thank you. Like you see, we'll vote for you. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was a splendid and insightful piece. Let's give it up for Zuta again. So please, I know you have a lot of questions to ask. You've written so many questions down. Please hold on. We'll take the second speaker and then our presenter, and after that we will do question and answers. And if you have any comments, you can add that. Lisa, who do we have?
So you've already indicated that the first presentation has been very insightful, and personally it has told me that we need to be strategic even in the research that we conduct. Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Suta. Next on our list, we are going to have another presentation on research ethics. Our presenter is an associate professor and bioethicist at the University of Cape Coast. He earned his Doctor of Philosophy degree in Population and Health from UCC in 2017, a master's degree in bioethics from New York University in 2021, and a certificate in research integrity from the NYU and University of Ghana's Research Integrity Program in 2021. Now, from 2014 to 2022, he served as the inaugural administrator of the UCC's Institutional Review Board, where he collaborated effectively with board members to receive, review, and approve over 2,000 research proposals. He is a prolific author with numerous publications in esteemed international and local journals. Once again, he is going to talk to us about research ethics. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome Professor Samuel Asiedu Owusu.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Like the VC, I'm also not so much into introductions, but I had to apply. Once again, studying all the established protocols, I'm very happy to be here this afternoon to share some issues, experiences on research ethics. Looking at the time, I will try. So the journey so far, on Tuesday, 22nd June 2021, I was sent to this university by an association called GARIC. So all the research ethics offices or the institutional review boards, we have the office, and more or less the secretaries are called administrators. So there's a national association of the administrators. So when I was appointed administrator at UCC in 2014, I joined the association. And in all our meetings and in all our deliberations, Winneba was not featuring. So on 22nd June 2021, I was sent to this university to come and inform the university that when we meet, you are not there. Fortunately, I met the then Vice Chancellor, the then Vice Chancellor, and one colleague, Dr. Yawasamwa, and then I think the principal also, the one at the Jumaku. So they were there. I made my presentations. And the then Vice Chancellor said that we have to make arrangement for you to speak to our graduate students, to faculty. And the first one, the faculty, unfortunately, when that date was sent, I wasn't in the country. So that was it. And then fast forward this year, on Wednesday, 12 March 2025, I had the opportunity of meeting the IRB, the UEW IRB. And I don't know whether this invitation is a follow-up of that meeting. When I was concluding my presentation, I said that per the topic provided, there's 2 other categories that we have to talk to. I don't know who they will invite. The IRB Secretariat staff and then the researchers. And the researchers have come before the IRB Secretariat. And so maybe it is because of that last slide that I showed, that's why I have been called to come here. And once again, I'm happy to be here. Zuta has given us a lot of insight into visibility, so I'm not going to talk plenty, but just from the common layman's understanding, visibility means attracting attention or being easy to see. And when it comes to research, it relates to the dissemination, accessibility, and recognition of your research. That is just the layman's understanding or explanation of visibility, or the process of making your research findings visible to the scholarly community. Now, what is the role of research ethics when it comes to visibility? That was the topic given to me to present on this afternoon. Research ethics is a full semester course or a full year course, so I can't use this period to talk about research ethics. But fortunately for me, I know that almost all of us here, we've taken some bits and pieces of courses in research ethics, so I'm not going to give a lecture on the depths and details of research ethics, but see how it can help us project or make us visible. So it comes from the philosophy, moral philosophy, and is a philosophical reason that forms the basis for studying and understanding morality and moral judgment, trying to see whether this is good, this is bad, this will give a good consequence, this will have a bad consequence, is it right to do, what time to do it, and all that. And it's everywhere, in all things that human beings are involved in. We have ethics following us. And in academia too, we have ethics, especially in our research work. And so when you apply the principles of ethics to research, that is what makes it research ethics. And there are the principles or norms for the conduct of research that distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior in research. So anytime you are using human beings as individuals, as groups, as communities to do research, what you are doing, is it acceptable? Is it unacceptable? Anytime you are using animals to do research, what you are doing, is it acceptable? Is it unacceptable? And what you are doing even stems from the way you conceptualize it, the way you think about it, the way you go about it, the processes, the results, and all that. And then if you are using biological samples, the way you go about it, the extraction, for instance, if you are taking blood samples, the procedure that you are using to take the samples, the quantity that you are taking it, the reasons, the person you are taking the samples from, the explanation you gave to the person before you take the sample. So for instance, you're a medical doctor who is in a consulting room, somebody walks in there as a patient, and now you are also a researcher. So instead of just taking just a quantity of blood for your diagnostic, because of the research you are doing, you want to take more. do you inform the person? If the person refuses, is the person going to get the correct diagnosis, treatment, and all that? So using biological samples. And then now we have environmental issues that also involve ethical issues. And now the AI, the almighty AI, also has come with a lot of ethical issues. But if you do research and you are judging it on the basis of ethics, it gives you guidelines for the responsible conduct of research. And once there's a responsible conduct of research, it means that there can also be a responsible way by which people conduct research. So using the ethics to guide you, the ethical framework to guide you, means that you are going to do research that is going to be responsible. And we can spend the whole day discussing what is responsible. The timing, the motive, the findings, the uses, and all that. But basically, if you are doing ethical research, it means that you are doing research in the most responsible way. When it comes to research ethics, largely, there are 4 ethical principles that we use to guide whether this research is being conducted responsibly or ethically. The first one is the autonomy of the research participants, the people who you are using as your respondents, how free they are to decide. You know, once you assume the position of a researcher, you also assume some levels of power over your research participants. But they are also to be seen as autonomous individuals, people who should be given the permission to freely decide, to choose, to either take part in the research or not to take part. So, for instance, if the Vice-Chancellor becomes a researcher, he's no more a Vice-Chancellor. He is a researcher. Now, assuming at a meeting of convocation like this, the Vice-Chancellor comes with his questionnaire and says that, oh, the Vice-Chancellor also wants to publish, and I have developed this questionnaire. So, convocation members kindly fill the questionnaires for me. And the Vice-Chancellor is the one who is distributing the questionnaire. Okay, will you respond or you will not? You are going to use pens to answer. And these are open-ended instruments as well. The Vice-Chancellor can be meticulous in checking the handwriting of all the staff to know those who are providing accurate responses or not. So if the Vice-Chancellor, as a researcher, gives me a questionnaire, am I autonomous enough to decline or to complete? So research or researchers are supposed to give all the research participants that kind of autonomy for them to decide to take part, not to take part, at what point they want to withdraw, at what point they want to say no, the time they want to detect and all that. And that comes with the researcher disclosing every detail of the research to the research participants. And that is where the issue of confidentiality and privacy, to what extent do I allow researchers to come into my private space? And my private space is my private space. My age is my private space. My marital status is my private space. So as a researcher, to what extent should I allow you to enter into my private space? And if you get into the space and you get the data from my space, to what extent can you also use it? And so if you give me a questionnaire, for instance, and I respond, and you go, you transform all of them into R, into theta, and all the rest. And then at the end of the day, you give the questionnaire to somebody who is selling fish or who is selling granules to use it to wrap the granules. You have infringed on my autonomy. I once saw in the market somebody using students' quiz papers to sell fish. And the student name, the index numbers, the marks they got were all there. Okay, so this is, I'm sure, a lecturer who has finished and all that and giving the papers out and using them to sell fish in the market. Okay, so that is where the exercise of autonomy puts the burden on the researchers to disclose everything to the research participants for them to make an informed decision. And that is where we use the informed consent. And then if it involves minors, that is where they need the parental consent. But even with minors, if the parents or the guardians approve and the minor rejects, the research cannot continue. just because you are trying to guarantee the full autonomy of the research participant. Non-maleficence, that is, do no harm, is another ethical principle that guides the conduct of responsible research. Now, what is harm? It is also something that we can debate the whole day. Is harm necessarily causing physical harm, mental harm, financial harm, or emotional harm? Harm is harm, something that causes somebody's pain. And anywhere I get the opportunity to make a presentation, I talk about this harm. I once asked a participant, please, what is your marital status? And the person started crying. And after the person gained composure, he said, well, my husband just died last week. It's in the morgue. So now who am I? What is my marital status? Have I caused harm or not? Okay? So where my research is taking place, if the participants have to travel before they can take part in their research, and because I'm a lecturer, my book and research allowance is not sufficient, and they have to bear their cost, have I caused harm? If somebody has to wait, spend some time to respond to my question, I've told the person that the research is going to take only 20 minutes of your time, and I've taken 1 hour of the person's time, have I caused harm? Assuming you are using these itinerant workers like kayaks, shoemakers, and the rest, and you engage the person for 1 hour, and you say, thank you very much for taking part in this research, have you caused harm? Okay? So, like I said, we can debate harm and debate harm. But as a researcher, if you are conducting an ethical research, you are not supposed to cause harm. So you always have to weigh the benefit of the research against the harm. And then that leads to beneficence. That is, the research should have a social value. It should have value to the research participants. And the fourth principle is justice. That is the fairness in the selection. So the choice of your research site borders on the ethical principle of justice. Where are you choosing your research site? So if you want to go to Makola, why are you not interested in East Legon? Okay? What is informing your choice? If you want to go to the northern part of Ghana to do your research, what is informing it? If you want to use students, why don't you go to professors? Justice, fairness in the selection. Assuming there is a limited resource for the research, who benefits? For instance, you are doing an experimental research. If somebody is enrolled in the research, the person gets $500, and you want to compare the results of the $500 to the results of those who didn't get. And you are the one administering it. How are you going to share it? When your niece, your daughter, they are all in the same inclusion criteria. Are you going to select them as research participants for them to get? So the selection is also a key ethical principle. So if you conduct ethical research, how does it inure to the benefit of visibility? Okay? And I'm coming with a caveat that if ethical conduct of research is a quality determinant, if it is something worthy of doing, if it is something worthy of pursuing, then if you conduct ethical research as a way of ensuring visibility, it will filter out poor quality research. It means that if UEW is enforcing the conduct of ethical research, faculty members, students, researchers will not venture in doing poor quality research. And the opposite is that it will ensure the conduct of high quality research. So it's both ways. If you are conducting ethical research, it means that you are going to conduct high quality research. And it is only high quality research that is published, that gets a citation. And if you are not conducting high quality ethical research, chances are that you are also not going to conduct good research. You are going to get the numbers, but you're not going to get the impact. That is how it works. I hope it's clear that ethical conduct of research will take out poor quality research and improve the conduct of high quality research, which will also increase your chance of publication in reputable journals. And it is only when the paper gets there that you get a citation. And it is also imperative to state that it is unethical to conduct a research without disseminating the findings. Should I repeat? It is unethical to conduct research without disseminating the findings. So if you conduct research and you don't share the findings, it is also unethical. You have used research resources for nothing, including yourself. Look at the stress you went through in securing the funds. Not even the funds, the idea, the research idea. And look at how you had to juggle through all the wahala to get the limited funding to do the research. And look at the stress you've put the research participants through. Your research assistants traveling in Ghana or traveling to other parts of the world to do the research. And after all these things, you don't publish. You don't disseminate the findings. It's unethical to do so. So it means that every research that is conducted is complete when it is disseminated. And the dissemination is through publication, conference presentations, and all those things that we do. And so if your paper is not published or your research is not finalized into a manuscript or a book for publication because it is of poor quality, you have also behaved unethically. So it is incumbent on us to conduct ethical research so that it can be published. And once it is published, it increases our chances of citations and our visibility. And it will minimize the rejections. Okay? And then it will also increase the research uptake, the social value of the research. And then it will eventually increase your visibility. And then if ethical conduct of research is a value determinant or is a quality determinant, it will avoid or minimize some ethical challenges. Okay. Now, there are so many infractions when it comes to the conduct of research. And some of them, we have research misconduct, falsification, fabrication, plagiarism. Okay? Falsifying data, fabricating data, falsifying results, fabricating results, and then plagiarizing. Misconduct. And you know, research misconduct is a criminal offense, punishable by a term imprisonment. Okay? So if you are conducting quality research, you avoid some of these ethical issues. And then it also avoids conflict of interest. If you are being ethical in your research, it will minimize the issue of conflict of interest. And then the authorship challenges that we have as academics. If you are conducting quality research, it will also minimize some of these challenges. I've once been approached by a student who wanted to sue the master's supervisor because the student was interested in publishing the work. And then before the student realized, the supervisor published without the student. So the student was contemplating suing the supervisor for stealing data. Okay? All right. So the problems with gift authorship, ghost authorship, add my name to it, and all that. If the university is advancing the conduct of ethical research, it will minimize all these things. And then this publication challenges. I encountered several colleagues who submitted their papers for publication before they were directed to come for their ethical clearance letters. And we didn't have them. So what happens? And then I've talked about stealing of data. You know, these days people are looking for so many opportunities to make money. So if they think that you have stolen their data, they can easily sue you. And then when you lose the case in court, they fine. And that's it. And then if you are advancing the conduct of ethical research, it will also attract research funding. What I talked about earlier, they are the positive visibility if you are conducting ethical research. If you are conducting unethical research, it gives you negative visibility. So the visibility we are talking about is both positive and negative. So the presentation Juta made, let's say all of them are about the positive visibility. UEW can be very visible, but also in the negative light. So how does unethical conduct of research leads to this negative visibility? One of them is retraction of papers. Now, since 2010, there is this group. It was started by 2 people. What they found was that somebody had published a paper, and the paper had been retracted. Okay? But nobody was aware of the retraction. And even a firm or a company had been established to promote the research findings of the retracted paper. I don't know whether it's clear. So let's say a research has been conducted that paracetamol is good for boosting your immune system. And so at the end of the day, it was realized that that publication was false. So the paper was retracted. Means that such a research has never been conducted. But a firm had been established producing paracetamol to help people boost their immune system. The paracetamol is just an example. So that was what they identified, that this paper had been retracted. But people are promoting it. It was there they realized that there are some papers that have been retracted, but have not been announced, have not been publicized, have not been told the academic world that this paper no longer exists. So they started collating information on such papers, and they made them visible, make them public, so that people will no longer cite them and all that. And it has grown since 2010 to date. And they update their website every day. Every day. We call it the Retraction Watch. It's a dashboard. You go there, you key in anything, and then you find it. So for the purpose of this presentation, I decided to just use the first 5 research universities in Africa and see how many papers they've retracted since they started doing their work. So for South Africa, they've retracted 209 papers. Okay, Tunisia, 147, Nigeria, 141, Ghana, 90 papers published by Ghanaian scholars with their partners have been retracted, no longer. So assuming the authors are from UEW and they use it for promotion, it means that we have to take out all those papers from their promotion. Because the paper has been retracted. It's no longer a publication. And so if you have used it to apply for promotion to become a full professor also, we have to now go back into application and cancel out all those papers. And then we'll see where you belong. And some people have had as many as 33 of their papers retracted. And in Ghana, if you are here and you have 33 papers retracted, I don't know whether you become a TA or you become... Okay? And then Morocco has 65. Now, let's come to Ghana. Of the 90 papers that have been retracted, if you go to the database, for the sake of reputation, I didn't know whether you bring the press or you bring the journalists here, so I decided to anonymize them. Okay. So, one university in Ghana, they have 24 of their papers retracted. Another university has 14 retracted. Another university has 6, and in fact 2 universities have 6 papers retracted. Another university has 3 of the papers retracted. UEW, if you go to the website, ASAT, yesterday around 11 p.m. when I finalized my presentation, I wanted to be sure. We don't have any retracted paper from UEW. And I expected this applause. Okay? I expected the applause. It doesn't also mean that UEW is doing everything correct. Okay? It may also mean that UEW, some of the papers are not being published in recognizable places for people to be interested. I hope whether that clarification is correct. It does not, no, what I'm saying is that for now, it's 0, which is a plus, and I wish it will remain 0 forever. It is 0, which is good news. But what I'm saying is that there may be other interpretations, that people are also publishing in places where the databases are not interested. For instance, if people are publishing in predatory journals, they will not go and change them to retract, because already the predatory journal has been retracted. So they will not follow you to check. It may also mean that some faculty members of UEW are also publishing without attributing the authorship to the university, that Eugene Azuta also mentioned. Because if your affiliation is Gmail, okay, nobody will be interested in where you are coming from. Okay, so it's good that UEW has 0, and the management and the staff and faculty members should do everything possible to keep the number 0. That is the message. But assuming you have your university name in that database where there's a trash. In fact, if you go to that database, they have the name of the paper, all the authors, their names are there, and the reasons for the retraction is there. All right. So if you have papers that are being retracted, it will give you negative visibility. The other reasons, so these are some of the reasons for the retractions, and I copied all of this from the website. Lack of IRB, ICOOK approval or compliance. The ICOOK is the ethics approval for those who are doing animal research. Okay, if you are using animals for your research, you need ethical approval. In Ghana, we have 3 of the IRBs that are into that. One is in Legon, one is at CSIR, and one has been established at K University. They are the only 3. So these papers were retracted for reasons such as they not having ethics approval, and then referencing issues, and then the general investigations, and third parties reporting the authors, okay, concerns and issues about authorship, concerns or issues with peer review, including fake peer review. So some colleagues, like the judge said, create, loot, and share. So a paper, let's constitute editorial team, you review, let's approve, let's publish. Fake peer review. And then unreliable results and or conclusions. In fact, some journals were experimenting. You send all your manuscript to them, and then in these days, promotion of open access and all that, you add the data, the raw data to it. What some of the journals were doing is that they take out your resource section and your discussion section. They take them out, okay, and give the data to somebody, and give your methodology to that person. That this is the data we have. This is the methodology. Use this methodology, run the analysis, write your results, write your conclusion, your discussion, and then they compare with what you have submitted. And there were instances where the ones that the authors submitted were at variance with what the methodology they said they used. So when they get these inconsistencies and concerns, they come back to you, and chances are that the paper will be retracted. Okay? And then computer-aided content or computer-generated content, AI. I've heard that now some colleagues are using ChatGPT to write papers. The journals have also upped their game, and they are checking this online content and all that. So these are some of the reasons why a paper can be retracted. And I believe UEW may have some of these challenges that have to be addressed so that you don't get into negative visibility. The other visibility that you can get is prosecution or fines. Okay? So if you go to the Office of Research Integrity website, every year they publish all cases of research misconduct that have come. The offense, the process of adjudication, and the punishment. This year they have only one case recorded. Last year they've recorded about 6 or so. So this is just an example from last year's case. And the name is there, your institution is there, and your offense. So Brent was accused of recklessly, falsely reporting that all human research subjects met the inclusion-exclusion criteria for late life depression studies in 5 published papers. That was the offense. So some of us, we just write inclusion-exclusion criteria and anything goes. Okay? This is what the person was accused of. And after going through all the adjudication, including lawyers and all that, he was found guilty. Among the numerous punishments, for 3 years, that's beginning last year, September, he cannot apply for, permit his name to be used on an application for, receive, or be supported by funds of the United States government and its agencies made available through contracts, subcontracts, or covered transactions. So for 3 years, he can't apply for any grant. And so if you are constituting a team and you add his or her name to your team, it means that the whole thing is not credible and the application will be shut down. Okay? And then he should exclude himself voluntarily from serving in any advisory or consultancy capacity. So assuming you are a consultant to the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and you have been slapped with this ban, and it's public, you go there, Office of Research Integrity, case summaries, you get all of them there. So assuming this is coming from UEW, certainly you attract a negative visibility. And Duke University was fined $112.5 million to settle claims against scientific research misconduct in 2019. What did they do? There was a lab in the university that was doing research, and they were cooking data and attracting so much federal grants. So at some point, one of the staff went undercover, used the whistleblowers' provisions, and reported the university. The case was investigated, and the university was found guilty and fined $112 million. Assuming it happens at UEW. Okay, let's take the dollars out and let's quote in Ghana cedis. I'm not sure the Vice Chancellor will sleep, and I'm not sure it can happen. So the point I'm making is that unethical conduct of research is also very costly. It's very expensive. It's very, very expensive. It can cost you, the individual, your career. It can cost the institution and all your collaborators, and it will damage your reputation. So what must we do? So if you are in a flight, I've started descending. What must we do to advance the ethical conduct of research in this university? Like I started from the journey. I had opportunity of meeting one of your former vice chancellors to have this discussion. I've had opportunity of meeting your IRB. The Pro-VC at the time was there. The other colleagues were also there. I've shared some of my views with them, and I'm asking for permission to repeat some of them, since now we have the top with us. 1. What must UEW do? Establish a functional and responsive IRB, Ethics Institutional Review Board. And I've colored the functional because there are some IRBs that are not functional. They exist in name, but in practice, they are not. The IRB work, the ethics review work, is very, 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 very tedious, difficult, that anybody you send there will not be happy in doing that work. And in no time, it doesn't work. So establish a functional and responsive. Responsive means that they are aware of the challenges researchers are going through. They know how to work. They know how to review the protocols without any bias, without any hindrance, without any interference. And that will come when you have a standard approved standard operating procedure. And that's a policy. When I met the IRB, I pointed out some deficiencies in your current setup. I've given them a write-up on what I think can be done to strengthen it. Understand a subcommittee has been set up to help revise the IRB procedure. I'll recommend to the IRB that when you are done with your draft, share it with every member of convocation and let them give you input. And then when it is approved, they will not come back and tell you that we are not aware. Okay? And then within the IRB, there's also a sub-office called the Research Ethics and Integrity Office. So more or less, they follow up on what the IRB has approved to ensure that the researchers are complying with the provisions. The protocol that they have submitted for review, the Integrity Office will ensure that they are complying. So it will not be out of place when the IRB has approved your research and you get a call that we are at the site, we have your timetable, we know all your research sites, we are there, you are not there. Because your timetable indicates that from 12th July to 30th July, we are going to do data collection. We know that data collection is in Bujumbura. So we are there. We are not seeing you. If you have completed the research, they will know. And they can go back and re-interview all the participants to find out whether exactly what you indicated in the protocol, you've done it. So when members begin to realize that they are being guided, they are being supported, not policed, but monitored in doing ethical research, they will also set up. And then the regulatory framework also comes with the policies. There are so many policies that have to be developed. For instance, the research ethics policy, the research integrity policy, conflict of interest policy, safeguarding policy, data protection policy, or data sharing policy, data management policy, a whole lot of policies that have to be developed. This is a key in advancing the conduct of ethical research here. And then when the IRB is fully set up, it should be able to execute its work independently. And independently, I mean independently. No interference. So the IRB should not be subject to the dictates of any the IRB should not be subject to the dictates of the Vice Chancellor. The IRB should be independent in its reviews. If the Vice Chancellor submits a protocol that he's also doing research, the IRB should look at it as a researcher who is doing his research. The Vice Chancellor should not call the IRB chairman that, Professor so-and-so, he is doing so well in this university. His protocol, he's late. So you just issue him a clearance letter, and we'll talk about the other details later. If powers in the university begin to do that, they weaken the independence of the IRB. So the IRB that will be established here should be very, very independent. So what the University of Cape Coast has done is that the IRB reports straight to the Vice Chancellor. No head of department, no provost, no dean, nobody is the Vice Chancellor. The budget of the IRB is from the university. It is not from any research office to the IRB. Okay? The current setup, it sits in the graduate school. I've advised that it should be taken away from there because it will not work. So the IRB, when it is fully set up, should be independent and it should be complete. What I mean by it being complete is that the membership should be complete. It should not be diverse. The university is a good place that we always put positions at some places. So for instance, we may have the director of research, here you call it DRED, as a member of the IRB. You may have the dean of graduate school as a member of the IRB. In fact, if I recall, the dean of graduate school is the chair, the automatic chair of the IRB here. I've suggested to them some changes. The question I'm asking, who told you that the director of research is interested in advancing the conduct of ethical research? The dean of graduate school. Who told you that he's interested in doing that as a person? Okay, so it is not necessarily the positions that should be used to form the IRB, but a certain level of competence, a certain level of criteria, so that it's complete with the diversity. Looking at the university disciplines and all that, if you are setting up the IRB, including somebody who is not a member of the university sitting in, including a lawyer, including a community member, okay, who may be a priest, like a pastor, a religious body, a chief, somebody representing diverse, and including somebody with a background in ethics. The IRB is reviewing ethics of the research, and you don't find an ethicist on the board. If it happens like that, I would say it's not complete. And it should be competent in handling their affairs. I once made a presentation at UCC, and one of the questions somebody asked, but you, the UCC IRB, do you have the capacity and the competence to review protocols in this area? I said, in fact, we are overcompetent to review the protocol, including inviting you, who is an expert, to come and assist us in reviewing the document. So the members should be very competent. Okay? And then the IRB in the university structure looks like a committee system. And committees, we have a chair, we have a secretary, we have members. All that we need is a conference room somewhere and a quorum. We are done. And that is how some institutions, they view the IRB. The IRB is a committee, but it's not a normal university committee. It is a committee that needs an office to run, and that is the IRB Secretariat. It's a committee that needs an office to run. So you need a competent administrator who is competent. I don't know how to explain competent. Okay? An administrator who is diplomatic but bold. That, Prof, as for this one, let's handle it this way. You don't come and say, do you know who I am? And the person will start shivering. Okay? So the IRB should have the board members who are that complete, competent, and they are independent. And you should also have an office for the IRB. Staff with everything that an office will need. Internet, PCs, whatever it needs to do its work. Because if the administration of the IRB is weak, that is where you hear of all these complaints, that my protocol is taking 2 years, it's taking 3 months, and all that. Because the board member is a professor who is teaching, who is doing his research somewhere. So if you submit a protocol to the board, and you expect the chairman to come and check all these things, it will not work. So you need an office set up with budget to run their activities. And the IRB should be very timely in their work. They should know that the research is timed to timelines, and so within 1 month we are done. And this is clearly indicated. Some institutions, per my experience, have established IRBs as an income-generating venture. I think it is wrong. The IRB fees that they are charging cannot solve the financial problems of the university. So it shouldn't be that if you're able to pay, you get your clearance. If that becomes the situation, the university is likely to get involved in negative publicity, because it's the quality of the reviews that makes the research ethical. And then I've talked about it, the authority and neutrality of the appointing body. I know that in this university is the vice chancellor who appoints, who becomes a member of the board. And it should be so. And if the vice chancellor is neutral, the vice chancellor is very, very deeply involved in what the IRB activities is, you will have a very successful IRB. So I will not hesitate to recommend that the vice chancellor, maybe on monthly or quarterly basis, can invite the chair, can invite the members, can even invite the administrator, can just walk to the office, can even get somebody to draft a proposal and submit and see how the process is running. If the whole institution gets to know that the appointing authority is neutral, it's not interfering in the activities of the IRB, it will strengthen your conduct of ethical research. And then the other thing to do as part of regulatory strengthening is effective and robust post-approval monitoring processes. The protocol has been approved. What happens? So now it becomes like a tick box. Let's get the approval. Let's get the approval. And once they get the approval, no show. Okay? People are very good in writing. They will craft everything to make it neat. But in reality, they are going to do on ethical research. So the IRB should be able to also follow up. The board members at some point in time should do routine monitoring. Go to the research site, find out what is happening to help improve the process. What must we do? I've talked about the management and then the regulatory framework is to have responsive researchers, and that is to members of convocation. The IRB serves the researchers, and when I say researchers, it includes students. Once you are doing research, you are doing research. Okay? It appears that the researchers always see the IRB as an enemy, as a hindrance to their research work. It is not so. So to strengthen the ethical conduct of research in this university, the researchers must also be responsive to the needs of the IRB. The IRB has forms. It has templates that researchers are to complete. Oftentimes, the IRB becomes editors. So many grammatical errors, information they are requesting is not available, and all that. It becomes frustrating. I was just sharing with somebody this morning that the IRB, as part of assessing the protocol, they have to know who is conducting the research. Okay? And who is conducting the research has to be on paper. If you are applying for a job, who is coming here? It's from your CV. So the IRB takes about 2 pages of CVs. It has become contentious. Students are always crying. Students are always frustrated because their supervisors say, no way. They're not going to give. So for some students, it takes 3 months, 4 months, waiting for the supervisor's 2-page CV. Some supervisors will even say that when I was applying for employment, I gave my CV to HR. So the IRB can go to HR to get the CV. But the truth of the matter is that every document received, reviewed, and approved by the IRB becomes a legal document that can be subjected to litigation anywhere in the world. And so if it is not complete and the IRB is compelled to accept and there's a litigation, who will lose? Is the institution. So the responsive researchers should also get to know what the IRB is expecting so that they can help. The other way by which the researchers can be responsive is that let's take this university, for example. Look at the number of faculty members, the number of students. And the IRB is just about 7 members, 9 members maximum. Let's say 11, 13 members maximum. They can review all the protocols. They may fall on some of you as reviewers. Now, it goes to the reviewers and they are asking, how much are you paying me? What is in it for me? A reviewer will take the protocol, 4 months, has not submitted. And we will find the same reviewer having a conversation with another colleague that the IRB is delaying the students. They are not responsive researchers. And then a friendly research environment, which Zuta has mentioned. So, in conclusion, I have a question. If UEW is talking about visibility through the ethical conduct of research, which visibility are you talking about? Are you talking about positive visibility, or we are talking about negative visibility? And I sincerely believe that we are talking about positive visibility. I've tried reading the Quran. I didn't succeed our attempt, but at least I'm familiar with the Bible. So I got this quotation that I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I've set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, choose life. Choose positive visibility, and that you and your offspring will live. I believe that if we decide to conduct ethical research, we will have life and we will live. Thank you very much.
Let's do it for our professor. That is a great one. And I like the ending. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, right? Okay. Yeah. I was asking my colleague who said that I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I've set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, choose life. If you know life is good, why did you add death? Why didn't you just give us life? Why do we have to choose? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for our professor. That's insightful, you know. Okay, so we now have the opportunity to ask our questions. We've listened to Zuta and we've listened to our professor Asiedu. So now, relax. At this point, we have the platform. Okay, we are the RLBs. So we choose which of you, the protocol to go through. So please, time for questions. Prof. Let's give the microphone. Please, do we have another microphone, please? Great. Okay, so we take 3 and then they will answer and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the presenters, for those insightful presentations. I have a couple of questions here. I think research visibility is also about how research is able, the findings of research is able to help solve practical problems. I see your presentation, a physician on impact defined in terms of who has cited you, where, and when. My question is, how do we then build into this equation the issue of research impacting the problems that we have? A lot of researches have been conducted. The theses are gathering dust on the shelves. Being visible for me also implies that these researches are implemented in ways that help to solve problems. So that's the question. How do we get universities to respond to that aspect? And then the second question is about innovation. Today, innovation is mentioned, research is mentioned, and everywhere research is mentioned, innovation follows up. Even in your job title, I think I saw something like research and innovation, something. At what point is research said to be innovative? What can we do to ensure that our researchers become innovative and our researchers also respond in that manner? And third, you talk about the H index. Which animal is that? And what's the recommended number for a good researcher who is on top of his or her game to have? Then to the second presenter, you talked about ethics, and you work at UCC. I heard you enumerate some of the challenges, but I want you to go back and tell us, with the approval process in UCC, what are the challenges? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so yes,
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Ekpo Enyimaka, Department of Food and Nutrition Education. It is my singular privilege to be a participant and to have received such inspirational guidance from our resource person. I am also obliged to acknowledge the management of our university for promulgating for this forum in which we can build our capacities in the area of research. I have such a peculiarity I need to present today, and that has to do with the change in structure. For example, we have a context where I wanted to do a systematic review, and there's no scopus in UEW library. Meanwhile, we're expected. I am a top researcher in my field, and there is nothing that anyone in the south or north or west or east knows that I don't know about. But I lack the capacity just to do a systematic review, synthesize principles, policies to inform industry. I had to go to Legon and borrow, because I was the former SRC president there, and borrow their access codes in order to be able to do my systematic review. On this basis, I will encourage our management to please resource our library for us. We need Scopus. You want us to publish in Scopus? Give us access to Scopus. I know it's expensive, but that is the way to go. I will humbly want to submit this. And I went to the library. I spoke to the librarian myself, and we could not get access to Scopus in order to do a systematic review of substance that informs current research policies in our industry. But I am so excited about our management because of the forward-looking agenda they have for us insofar as research capacity is concerned. And I want to celebrate them for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc Ekpo. Okay, the third one, and then Prof, and then that will be it for the first set, and we move on to the second set.
Thank you very much. My question is in line with Prof's question about the impact, and I would like to find out whether you think collaborative research and then this sole authorship, which of them will you recommend that will give a higher impact in terms of what we are discussing as visibility issues in the university? The second part is this monetary issue. If you want to publish in those scopus, and it's going to be open source, they will tell you should pay 5,000 euros. I don't know whether some of us have experienced it. And I think I'll need an annual salary to be able to get to this. What would you recommend that management should do to support us so that we'll be able to actually move forward in that direction? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Okay, we're good.
I can start taking the answers. The question, giving answers to I can start giving my opinions on the questions. They are my opinions, personal opinions. First is on impact measurement that I focus solely on like a scholarly metrics as a sole measure of impact. I did so in context of publications impact. So my impact at the point or the time of speaking was limited solely to publication impact. However, I also remember mentioning academic industry collaborations, that if you want to have an impactful research regarding industry, it will be good for you to formulate your research problem in consultation with industry partners as one of the metrics that I did mention. So yes, I agree with you that I was a bit very much focused on publication metrics because the research feasibility, I limited it very much to publications because I perceive that as being one of the key focal areas of this presentation. However, When I mentioned the, for example, West Africa Center for Biochemistry of Pathogens, the centers of excellence, these are classical examples of innovative centers. And it is driven by grantmanship. And the grantmanship is intertwined with peer review publications. This is where the link lies. So yes, I'm aware, for example, we have something at Legon, we call Legon 18. It's a pepper variety we produce for the local market. It's an innovation, and it's great. We have something we call the Nungwa blackhead. Those who did animal science here will know that that variety of goat was bred from Legon. Yes, these are all innovations, but they factor into an area called institutional reputation. So yes, if you do such things that have become famous, you may earn repetition scores in the surveys that I spoke about. Because you hear that, oh, there's a famous university in Ghana that has produced a crop variety. You're okay with it. So these things, they go hand in hand. They are not separable. In many cases, innovative research does not stop you from publishing it. What we always advise is if you have innovative idea, you discuss with Technology Transfer and Intellectual Property Office, which is an integral part of the Research Management Office. Then you will sit with the experts to fish out the potential patentable or commercializable aspects of your research. Then we fish that out before you go to the press to publish. If we have that collaboration between academics and the research office, we will do more at improving the impact of research on practice. So yes, practice is key, and practice is a research impact. But for your research impact from practice to become an output or an outcome in your institutional prestige or recognition or sometimes ranking, you certainly have to think of making the scholarly publications out of it. Why we doing this is, like I said earlier, we don't have a government that says, take this money for research. We are begging Global North for money for research. So we're going by the standards of the Global North in what you can do for them to give us the money. That is why these research innovation directives that have come common in Africa in recent times are largely part of our efforts at attracting foreign currency. It has not largely been focused towards domestic innovative impact. Because for you to innovate here, you can imagine the infrastructure you need, even to do a prototype. When you have an idea and you have to develop a prototype, do we have the industries to even help you? Are there even funds? That is why for now I kind of over-limited myself to the publication metrics, which is also clear, a bit evident, easier to show than the others, which are not easily globally visible. Like Sasakawa Center at UCC, they've done a lot of things, they've done a lot of discoveries, but when you look at it carefully, you might not easily be able to measure the impact unless you go and take empirical data from Sasakawa. But when it comes to publications, once you put it there, the metric speaks for itself. Globally, everyone picks it. That's the reason for my limited scope in the presentation. The H index, yes, this animal called H index. It's a huge monster. It dwells in scholarly communities and lives among academics who want to showcase their research. This monster tries to put together the number of your publications that get cited at certain number of times and gives a value to it. It is used to compare researchers only in one discipline. We don't compare researchers from different disciplines based on their H index because, like I said earlier, the health sciences has more than 1,500 journals. Classics, philosophy, history, African studies may have less than 200 journals globally.
Classics in particular is one of the disciplines with the least number of journals globally. So if I publish one paper in a journal of classics and a doctor publishes 200 papers in a Lancet, my one paper in classics is more impactful than the 200 papers of the medical officer. This is where the H index cannot be used to compare these two researchers because they are publishing from different disciplines. So yes, if you use H index as a metric for promotion, you have to control for discipline-specific differences. If not, you'll be biased against the humanities, the arts, and favor the medical, applied, and life sciences. So that is the monster called H index. Yes, a number recommended for a top researcher, again, will be discipline specific. This issue came up when we were doing our promotion biometric criteria to determine which ND index should we accept for promotion to senior lecturer, associate professor, and professor. This question came up. So what would be the standard? So yes, I suggested, recommended, and defended discipline-specific numbers. It has been debated here and there. So I was tasked to now go into the database of the entire University of Ghana and find out average H index of academics of the various ranks. So I had to run H index analysis for the whole university and realize that, okay, this is a professor, he has 9, this associate prof, he has 10, this senior lecturer, he has 4. So we did that kind of average comparisons, and then we established the recommended figures in our report. So yes, I would not be able to tell one, but it should be institution specific, and above all, it should be discipline specific. Ours is having a little problem with discipline issues. So yes, it is being thought about and possibly being revised. So yes, that animal is causing a lot of trouble on various campuses globally. Then co-authorship. The co-authorship issue was about, no, it was kind of collaboration, yes. When I showed the collaboration, international collaborations of University of Education, Winneba, you saw that single-authored papers are less likely to receive citations than multiple international collaborated papers. And your international collaborated papers had a field-weighted citation impact of, I think, 1.41 or so. But single-authored ones had very low field-weighted citation impact. So in this context of international research ranking, craftsmanship, and especially bibliometric performance, favors the international co-authorship than sole authorship, irrespective of the length of the paper. I know the humanities who write very long, beautiful, good English, 25 pages, 15-page publication. A scientist, 40 scientists will put up a 3-page paper. And the humanities man will tell you, I wrote it alone, so mine is better. Yet, the 2-page paper put together by 10 scientists will receive more citations. So when it comes to the measurement metrics, which is largely used for ranking, the science paper will receive more citation and will be more beneficial to the university because of the number of authors and the possible number of citations it will receive. Because the evaluation criteria are highly mechanistic. That's why I always say that institutions can be strategic to even alter their citation metrics if they carefully engineer it based on just simple issue of how to attract citations. As simple as that. That's why I show you UHAS, because the health science, they're publishing a lot with foreigners. If they take a blood sample from a village in Ho, the lab technician is part of the authors. If a researcher at Ho processes that sample and it is shipped to South Africa, that academic is part of the authors. If the paper is fine-tuned and a copy sent to the person, anybody there to make a sentence, it becomes part of it. So this international collaborated paper will certainly have more citations and greater impact bibliometrically than the social science or humanities 20-page properly written code English. Yeah. So yes, the international collaboration is faster. The last one from Professor Ekpo. Professor Ekpo, yeah, I think it wasn't a question, it was a suggestion to senior management. Ekpo, if I'm right. Yeah. If my memory is okay, then thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. My personal experiences with the challenges. So the first one is the application or the submission process. You know, researchers are applying for ethical clearance. They are applying for ethical approval. The board is supposed to review the document for its ethical compliance. They have their forms. They have the information they are requesting to be able to make that decision. Oftentimes you find applications that are incomplete. They have provided this, they've not provided that. And it takes a while before they get it done. So I will put the first challenge as the application process. Some take 6 months to complete because of the information they are requesting. It's not been available, it's not been accurate and all that. And for the students, this is related to the supervision. Okay, my experience has been that the students who are having these challenges are also having challenges with supervision. Because, for instance, the University of Cape Coast, before we take your application, as a student or as a student, you should be able to defend the proposal, and it should be authenticated by a cover letter from the department, your supervisor. We have all these cover letters, but yet if you look at the quality of the proposal that has been submitted, you realize that there are so many technical errors or flaws with it. So the supervision may also be a challenge. And then the other one is the timeliness of the submission. Some people will wait when it's about 2 weeks to their data collection, and then they approach the IRB for ethical clearance. Some students within their second semester is there that they are submitting their documents for ethics approval. So the time that people submit is also problematic. And then when it comes to the IRB, the reviews, like I cited in my presentation, assuming you have a 50-member board maximum, and they are receiving protocols here and there. We have the Dean of Graduate School, a member, Director of Research, Director of this. They are all part of the members. They are also faculty members. They are teaching. They have different things doing at the same time. And if the protocol comes, it has to be reviewed. So they may fall on other faculty members to advise with a review. And then it gets to them, and then it is taking them months to review. I have instances where some reviewers have taken 6, 8 months just to review a single protocol. And if the protocol is not reviewed, there's no way the researcher will get the feedback. And so the review process is also something that poses a challenge. And then when it is reviewed and then the comments are sent back to the researchers, they also responding to the comments becomes an issue. I have had several instances where for 4 months, comments had been sent to investigators and they are not even checked their email. Check their email. In fact, I went to an office when somebody was criticizing us, I won't say insulting us, that I've sent my work to the IRB and for 4 months I've not heard anything from them and all that. So in the middle of the conversation, I just asked the person the name. The person didn't know me, just the name, and I placed a phone call to the office that please check the system, give me updates on this person. And then the feedback was that, Doc, we sent the person a comment 4 months ago. The person has not responded. So I asked the person, when was the last time you checked your email? He said, it's been a while. I said, but you're expecting feedback from the IRB. Why have you not checked? He said, when I was applying, they told me that it will keep long. So, okay, so that has been another challenge. And then the other challenge has also been the funding. Because if the reviewers are not well motivated and it's just a token to appreciate them, they may also have other interests. So these are other general challenges for which, as I indicated, UEU has advantage of learning from all these things so that you can improve your system and then it becomes very, very friendly for everybody.
Okay, another set. Yes. Okay, so Professor Dake, the ladder, Dake, Professor Dr. Podo, and then the two. I'll take four. For now. Okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. We are talking about promoting local journals, not only journals from outside Ghana. But then again, we are talking about the journals being indexed, either with Scopus or Web of Science. I don't know whether University of Ghana or UCC has a deliberate policy towards how they can promote local journals in terms of visibility, that one day, if it's been 5 years ahead, the same journals which are local journals may become high impact journals. What is your take on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kudo.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think if you check our last two strategic plans, research and innovation are the main themes. It means the heart of the university is at the right place. However, if you listen to the entire discussion, you realize that funding is the major hurdle for the institution to clear. If you come across manuscript processing charges, for example, you have some options. There are times I see that institutions have partnership with some funding agencies. Those things are indicated over there. I don't know how those partnerships are established. I don't know if you can share some light on that. The next thing I want to invite you to share light on is about how UG did it. When the chairman was talking, he talked about skill development in relation to grantmanship. We can see that winning grant will solve our funding problems. But then generally UEW lacks the people with the requisite skills to win more grant in order to reduce the burden that we have as far as funding is concerned. How do we confront this and resolve the skill problem so that more and more of our staff are trained and acquire the requisite skills in order to win more grants so that the funding problems is resolved?
Thank you, Dr. Pudo. Last two, yes. Thank you. Please, because of time, let's hurry up. Thank you.
Thank you for the insightful presentation. My questions dwells on the call for publishing papers in high-impact journals like the Scopus. I think recently the university organized a workshop on that, and we're encouraged to target those journals. But one of the challenges that some of us face, especially with those who are into French foreign language, is that those journals, Scopus journals, most of them don't have space for French publications. Because I could remember this year, I tried several times looking for some of those ones that can publish some articles for me. The only one I got, the response I got from them was that they were not into literature. So I found it very difficult getting it. Finally, I have to publish in one of the Francophone countries, which was working under CAMES, which is also another strong organization monitoring research publication. So now the question is, if they are looking for visibility and the focus is on Science Hub and the Scopus, how do we, those who publish under CAMES, which is also recognized in Francophone zones, how are we catered for in that sense?
Okay.
The second question, please. The second question was on the fact that they say for visibility, sometimes Prof said there are times you even go to the Facebook to get some papers and then trace it to where it has been published. This year when I was submitting some of the papers to the university library to be uploaded, I was told once the paper is published in a journal, you cannot put it anywhere unless you get permission from them. So if in case you want to do something like putting it on Facebook after publication, how do you go about it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very lovely presentation. Talking about the metrics, the mechanisms, and the methodology that the world-ranking institutions use to rank our universities. Do you think that African universities as developing nations should be competing with the developed world universities? And I also like to know from UCC and UG, do you have journals that are in Scopus and Web of Science?
Okay.
Thank you.
Interesting. Okay, that will be the last. Ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of time, this will be the last set. The presenters will be available after the event so that you can interact with them if you have any more questions. Please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. This one goes to the first speaker. I overheard him talk about poaching of professors moving from one place to another. I see it more as an exchange program. So on the heel of that, I want to find out how student exchange programs, online programs, open and distant learning, how can these ones to help
impacts on the
universities
metrics
to be visible?
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll always like to start with your last one. Online programs, distance learning, and how they contribute to visibility. And I think there was a third thing you mentioned, online, distance, and
exchange programs.
Exchange programs, yes. So when you look at the global rankings, those that require institutional data submission, there is a score for international students inbound and international students outbound. This is what accounts for the exchange programs in ranking. So the more students you have outbound and inbound, the higher your international score. Again, when it comes to faculty, the more foreign faculty you have, the greater your score on internationalization. So most of the rankings also measure internationalization.
Okay.
In terms of distance programs, the clear way of measuring distance program is still the student-staff ratio. For example, some of the ranking will ask you, how many graduates do you have in education? The larger the number of graduates in a discipline, the higher your ranking. So when the last SDG ranking came, despite that UCC and Winneba are education universities, if you take the metric, the statistics, KNUST has the largest number of education students in Ghana now. Their student population stands about 84,000 thereabout, whilst we are around 79,000. So KNUST was ranked the best education university in education by SDG ranking, simply by the student numbers. So the distance student numbers can be very useful in that. So when it comes to best university for health, UHAS was ranked the best university for health sciences because 90% of their graduates are graduating with health science degree. So when it comes to those things, every ranking agency has its own specific metrics and what it ranks. But the one I presented on was not so specific on foreign, or so specific on distance students, but foreign students was part of it. It's part of internationalization.
Okay.
That's good. And Africans to, yes, how could Africans compete with these universities? When Times Higher started these things and African universities started joining, that became the biggest challenge because we don't have the resources they have. We don't have the kind of laboratories they have. We don't have that kind of funding they have. But we look at the metrics, and the question I ask is, if someone says that you should publish good papers and contribute to global knowledge generation, is it a bad thing? It is not. If someone says improve your website, your systems of education and evaluation to make your own life better in terms of your student satisfaction, we read the most current literature from papers that everybody is reading in the discipline. Is it so negative? We realize it is not. But though we don't have the resources to support it, as an institution, especially a university, the system of peer review that is entrenched, or that is the foundation upon which knowledge generation is grounded, is rooted not only individually, but also collectively as groups. So every institution like a university needs to subject itself to some form of peer review. So these rankings serve as institutional peer review processes for globally to be examined and tell us this is what you are doing well, this is what you are not doing well. These are some of the reasons why, despite that we don't have the resources, we still need to do some level of subjecting ourselves to these global peer review systems. If we are applying for a research grant, especially those in the research office, in a collaborative grant, maybe Legon, UNISA, and maybe Cambridge, and there's a deadline for submitting. So everyone has done his work, and your pro VC or VC was not able to sign, and the deadline had passed. And you ask your collaborators in that grant to rank your university. They will say it is bad. So it keeps us on our toes that no one should be responsible for a negative outcome or impact. If you are publishing a paper with someone, after doing a little work on the initial part of it, you just stop it. Which, of course, my professor here will tell you is unethical to do that. But you will continue to put your name there till the paper is ready. But you've not been a good steward. It is not a good practice. So when you look at the metrics used in the rankings by themselves, are not really negative things. They are things that are good. That is why we still subject to them, despite the big differences. So Times Higher Education decided to bring what they call Sub-Saharan African rankings because of this argument. So that ranking, 10%, publications account for only about 10% in that ranking. So it is not based on scholarly metrics as much. Good. And I have to answer a question on Legon journals indexing. One of my works is to build the capacity of our local journals to meet international standards. So we have a journal desk in my office, which we put all the journals together. We created a website for them, and we are using the open journal management systems to operate the journal so that you can do the entire editorial process online. We subject ourselves to Scopus indexing criteria, Web of Science indexing criteria, and we are actually working at it. It's very political, a bit difficult. Sometimes you need to reconstitute maybe the entire editorial board of some of the journals, because to be a member of an editorial board of a journal, to be accepted into Scopus, you yourself must be a top publisher in the discipline. If you are an editorial chair of, let's say, Winneba University Journal of Distance Education or Disability, you should have a lot of papers in disability education to be the chief editor. So people use these positions to control, at the earliest point, at the entry, academic, maybe first from master's to PhD and first level entry, we are not normally interested in journal impact factor, quality of publications. Once published, is published. So these are some rewards that people hold and they cling to it. Even if the person doesn't have it, you cannot just tell him, I'm changing you. Some people are live editors of some journals on campuses. So yes, we have so many difficulties, but we are working at it. So that's one area we actually do. We can't go without local content because they are not, what is interesting to us in Ghana is not interesting to somebody in South Africa or Europe. So yes, that is a genuine concern. And the French language issue, yes. This is why we call this peer review. So for languages and people in those disciplines, the qualitative assessment is still available. We don't force people to, the system doesn't force people to go by metrics. So French language, Russian, Kiswahili, Spanish, all these languages in our context, they do their own peer review. When you submit for promotion, your HOD will find the external assessor for you in your discipline. So you are not compelled to do so, to go by metrics, because truly, these are purely English databases, and very few French publications or papers are in the databases. So that's a genuine issue. So you are not supposed to always go by the metric. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it was on institutional partnerships, how we build it, especially with funders and other people. The most important area for that Legon has done is the conference grants. So they give some money to you if you are going to international conference, because these things can be done through good stewardship and networking. Good stewardship means if you have to go after a paper with someone like this, your international collaborations, those guys, when they have a grant, they will add you, they will pull you in. And again, if you are attending conferences and you are making presentations, you go with your business card and make sure you build some networks. And if the senior management members of the university are traveling, it's also important for them to go with people who are networked in the countries they are going. So if maybe VC is going to Netherlands and he look at the international cooperation and realize that maybe he had about 4 collaborators from Utrecht who are published with his university, he could go there and seek, try to see if he can meet them to at least just have some courtesy call on them and congratulate them that yes, he's aware of their collaborative papers with collaboration with some faculty in his school. He may decide to even go with those faculty members. So you don't just travel because you have to travel. You go to places and you strategically know where you are going and what you are going to do. And those who should accompany you should be based on some expected result from them. If the collaborator is in maybe a school of distance education, he can go with the dean of distance education, the particular person who is publishing the paper. Doesn't necessarily mean you should be senior management member. When you are using these tools, you become very mechanistic. You may be sometimes unfriendly to authority because you are going based on some objective target. He may not necessarily have to travel with his vice, but because he's going to a country where you are collaborating with a professor there. These are difficult things, but Europe, they do it. Here, it's not too clear and it's not so easy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for the sake of time, I'll be very snappy. I will take the one on the skills in writing grants. So, for instance, the University of Cape Coast, what we did when our research office was established was to roll out what we call the research support grants, where internally the university was giving grants to faculty members to compete. So we had it at different levels. We currently have it at 4 levels. So we have the individual level, where as an individual you appear as a PI, and then you have a research proposal you submit. It is assessed, peer reviewed, and then if you win, you win. And then we have the group level where groups of colleagues can team together and then submit their proposal. And then we have interdepartmental where you cross-fertilize with other colleagues from other departments, and then you apply. And the last one is policy and practice, where you can even go outside the university to get industry partners to apply with different grant support. And now we have the fifth one, which is the special grants, for instance, systematic reviews and all that. So gradually, it has been used as a platform to build a capacity of staff to attract other funding. The other one that can also be done is targeted training. For instance, there's a live call. NIH Wellcome Trust has announced a call. The university is interested. The university can put together a team, invite even a consultant to come and help the team to write. We have done it before. There was a grant that the University of Cape Coast invited somebody from Belgium to come and be with the team, take them through the template, one by one, page by page, and they won it. Okay, so you invest, you win. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it up for them. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacob Kilberson Zuta and Professor Samuel Asiedu-Owusu, for your presentation and for your time, and we appreciate you for that. Let's give it up for them. As they said, ladies and gentlemen, I have been in this university for some time now, and I've emceed a lot of programs. One thing I've noticed is that due to the busy schedule of mostly the chairpersons that we have for events like this, mostly they come and do their remarks, the acceptance, and then they leave it for other senior members too. But this event, actually, we've had our chairperson sitting all through. It tells how important this particular event is to our chairperson, and how serious is it to us as a university. Ladies and gentlemen, to give the closing remarks, we invite our own Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Jefferson Mutual, to do the closing remarks for us. Let's give it up for him.
Good afternoon, my colleagues. I think you've heard it all. I don't need to come and repeat anything. I'm seeing this workshop as if we're standing in front of the mirror and viewing ourselves in the area of research output, how we are performing. And this one is more like an independent assessment from people from outside. I'm not saying that go and publish in Scopus. I'm not saying that go and publish in Web of Science. They are telling us that if we do that, it will increase our research visibility. I want to promise you. I used not to promise, but these days, I'm having the edge of giving promises. If you're a leader, that is one of the ways of inspiring your people, but I'm serious with it. We're going to increase access to our research fund. I know we have a research fund, but when I came, I realized that whenever people apply, they don't get it. I don't know the criteria that they're using, evaluating the applications. I think at a point in time, we even form a committee to review the application, documents. Please, we need, and that fund has been sitting there, we call it restricted funds. We need to do everything possible, OBC, to make sure that our researchers assess these funds in doing their research. We also do everything possible to support those who want to publish in high impact journals. Even if we can do 2 or 3 for now as a beginning, I mean, we should be able to do that. It should not be difficult for us to do that. We look at the criteria for doing all these things. With OBC, for me, I mean whatever I say. And so you should help me to be able to get the criteria right, to be able to put some of these things into operation. There are a lot of funds that goes to some extent waste. That if you're able to seal all these gaps, we'll be able to do that. We also need to step up our training in gunsmanship. I think I've been having a lot of conversations with Professor Sam on these things. He's one of the topmost people when you talk about gunsmanship, in this institution. And because he's a bit closer to me, at certain times you see him sending me messages, even when I wake up early in the morning. There will start conversations there. I think we need to step up, our efforts, in that area. We also, as a matter of urgency, need to establish an institutional review, board registrar. We need to do that. I remember it was one of the things that I presented to the search committee that, eventually led to my appointment. But after I got the appointment, I've forgotten about that one. Please, I have remembered. And so, as a matter of, you say what? We need to do that. I was just sitting down thinking about, we have convocation, meetings, and Vice Chancellor should be able to tell you something about how we are performing in research and, things like that. So this is part of my report to you for convocation. We're going to have our meeting on 29th. I think I've told the registrar, it should have been earlier, but better late than, never. So institutional review board is extremely important. We get some people from outside who are, top-notch, professors and who have tasted some of these things to help us to independently review our performance in the various areas that, we are operating. We also like to establish a desk. Either at the quality assurance units. And the ZUTA, you will get some people for you, attach them to you for some time, maybe 2 weeks as a consultancy. Then you help us to bring them up. These are things that we should know. Every 6 months, or at least every year, we should know how we are faring in areas of research. And so, Quality Assurance Director, Professor Geni, we want you to establish a desk there. Look at your organogram and see how you can fix it there. I've had some chat with one of the staff on this. I don't know how you're going to go about it. I'm flexible in most of the things that I do. The best way we can do it, we will do it, to make us move forward. A gentleman also spoke about difficulty in assessing Scopus journals, and I don't know if I got it right. Please, I'm a servant to you all. My ProVC is a servant to you all. My registrar is a servant to you all. Anybody who thinks he's a god and is better than the people we are leading cannot perfectly fit into my management. And so anytime you have any problems like this, please, let us know so that we address them. We are here to serve you and to make the institution better. Anything that will move the institution forward, I stand for it. At some time, people call me, I think yesterday, one of the professors called me, this institution wants to have a collaborative conference here with us, and I want to come and see you. I told him, look, I've approved it online. I shall speak with you. Just bring the letter as a formality for us to, move on. I think this morning too, was it you? Is there another institution from US? If they want to come and have a collaborative conference with that here, is this something that needs that kind of unnecessary protocols for it to be approved? So I'm telling you, maybe the way you view me at a distance is quite different because my face is always serious, I'm not laughing enough, and things like that. I'm a very nice guy in private life. My wife always tells me that I'm a very nice guy. I'm telling you, anything that is positive and will move this institution forward, please, I support it. And people who get closer to me can attest to the fact that I don't frustrate people. If it is good, it is good. Why do we need to argue and spend time and talk about it? If it is bad, it is also bad. We don't need to encourage it. And so my doors are always open. But to get me at certain times is also difficult. I think that is it. That is the reason why we're giving you a very beautiful young lady Pro-Vice Chancellor, whose office may be more accessible. Please, with all your research issues, she will gather the information, we will discuss it, and whatever we can do to support you, please, I'm ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's do it again for our chairperson and vice chancellor. Thank you. So I'm so much happy. Prof says that he's going to help support one of you and both of us. Yeah, he said 3 people, 3, 2, and we'll select one of you. Anyway, thank you so much, Prof, for that assurance. We appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an insightful, educative workshop. You can attest to that. We want to use this opportunity to thank the organizers for putting together this very educative workshop for all of us, and also to the Vice Chancellor and the management team for allowing this event to even come on in the first place, for endorsing it and also coming to grace the occasion. Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor and management, ProVC, for this event. And also thanks to the Office of DRID for putting this together. We really appreciate you for that. And also that beautiful collaboration we've had with ORID. Thank you so much, ORID, for collaborating with us to do this. And thank you to our speakers, Mr. Jacob Zuta, and to you, Professor Samuel Esedu Owusu, for that beautiful presentation. We really appreciate you. And to all the organizing committee of this event, we really appreciate the efforts you put into putting this together. And to each and every one who has been here, thank you for coming. I believe that you've all enjoyed this presentation. We've learned a thing or two, which we'll put into our publications and we'll take along with us. And also, I want to take this opportunity to thank my co-MC, Dr. Elizabeth Owusu-Esiama, and thank also myself for coming. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for doing this. At this point, we will do the closing prayer, and to do that for us, we have the University Chaplain, Dr. Nanana. Let's give that for him as he comes.
That's good. Having sat down for at least about 4 hours, 40 minutes for those who came in early, we want to bow for the closing prayer. Like VC said, it's been like a mirror. What will you do to increase your visibility and the visibility of UEW? What have you decided to do or even to continue doing? In your eagerness to increase your visibility and the visibility of the university, have you been involved in any unethical behavior, unethical research stuff? This afternoon we want to pray, whatever decision you have taken. You want to pray to Allah, you want to pray to the mighty God. You want to pray to the Lord of your life to continue to protect you and grant you life and strength. And that whatever you have decided on, He grants you the enablement to be able to do that. Shall we pray? Let us take this opportunity to pray for our management and to pray for all our partners, institutions who we have been working with one way or the other. Let us also pray for our stakeholders who continue to support this institution. And so, God, we thank you for this afternoon and for a successful program. We pray, committing our presenter into your hands as we leave, that you grant them the traveling mercies back to their destinations. And we pray that this will not end here, but that you continue to enable us to do that which is expected of us. That will grow the university into what it's supposed to be. We pray for management, we pray for staff, we pray for students and all others. We pray that the rest of the day will be fruitful. We ask this and many blessings. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, University Chaplain, for that spirit-filled prayer. At this point, we take photographs. We'll take photographs, please. Come on stage. Let's take photographs here, please. And please, don't go.